Chapter 676. Jiang Xi walked in the passageway. On the walls of this passageway that represented the path of the Tao technique, a large number of stones were piled up. It was as if there were no rules to speak of, and it was messy and disorderly. Where is the inheritance guidance of the Tao technique path? Jiang Xi searched carefully. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he stared intently at a wall. He was shocked to discover that those large and small stones seemed to be messy and without any rules. But once the billions of stones were combined, it was actually an incomparably complicated and mysterious pattern. Moreover, some of those stones were protruding and some were sunken, making this pattern even more three-dimensional. This is a three-dimensional secret technique pattern. Jiang Xi was surprised. To be precise, what the pattern displayed was a fire attribute Tao technique rank 1 secret technique. It's actually only a rank 1 secret technique? This made him very curious. Wasn't it too low? What about the other side? He turned to look at the opposite wall and combined the billions of stones. Sure enough, it was another three-dimensional secret technique pattern. However, this time it was a metal attribute rank 2 secret technique. With Jiang Xi's strength, he could remember these secret techniques at a glance. He advanced all the way and then saw the 5 elements Tao technique rank 3 secret techniques, rank 4 secret techniques, all the way until the 5 elements heavenly Tao level rank 6 secret techniques. Moreover, there was more than one secret technique at each level. All the secret technique patterns added up, the number reached hundreds of thousands, close to 1,000,000. Finally, Jiang Xi encountered a stone door at the end of the passageway. The stones on the door formed an incomplete secret technique pattern. An incomplete rank 7 secret technique? Rank 7 secret techniques were created by Empyrean powerhouses according to the source-level Tao technique. At this time, Jiang Xi completely understood. Those secret technique patterns in the passageway were rewards and also tests. If he wanted to obtain more rewards, he had to complete this secret technique pattern. Then, he would be able to open the door and enter the next stage. Suddenly, Jiang Xi thought of something and was immediately overjoyed. The essence of a secret technique is a Tao technique. And these secret techniques are so detailed from low to high, just like an analysis. Through a large number of secret techniques, the 5 elements Tao technique is analyzed clearly. This is a great opportunity for me. When a Tao reached the level of the heavenly Tao, it was like hundreds of rivers converging. In the end, only the 5 elements, time, space, life, destruction, reincarnation, blade Tao, and sword Tao were left. A total of 8 Tao techniques. Among the 8 Tao arts, I've only comprehended 3 of them. The Tao of the sword, the 5 elements, and the Tao of life. Here, I can use the experience points panel to deduce these secret techniques. I can quickly comprehend the 4th Tao art, the 5th Tao art, or even more. It was like copying answers in an exam. The various secret techniques on the walls of the Tao technique passageway had been completely analyzed and laid out in front of Jiang Xi. As long as he used the interface to deduce the Tao art one by one, he would be able to make it his own. Moreover, since there's this door as a test, it means that as long as one deduces the Taoist techniques on the walls of the passageway to the origin level, one will be able to enter the next stage. It's very likely that the next stage will be one of the other 8 Taoist arts. Jiang Xi's eyes shone brightly. Perhaps he could comprehend even more Taoist arts here. Or even comprehend all 8 Taoist arts. He looked at the experience points panel. Tao Arts Sword Tao Origin 10,000 yuan 10,000 yuan, 5 Elements Origin 10,000 yuan 10,000 yuan, Life Origin 10,000 yuan 10,000 yuan. Experience Points 1,751 trillion Eternal Experience Points 29,218 yuan. The only problem is that there might not be enough experience points later on. However, the longest time for an elite mission is an era, which is 36 million years. There should be plenty of time. My clone can find a way to harvest experience points in the Chaos Sea. After having a plan, Jiang Xi immediately took action. He had already reached the origin level of the 5 elements Tao arts, so the test of the secret technique pattern on the stone door was not difficult for him. He waved his hand, and the immortal energy in his body poured into the secret technique pattern. The incomplete parts were quickly completed, forming a complete set of 7th-stage 5 elements Tao arts. In fact, according to Jiang Xi's current cultivation level, as long as he was willing, he could also create a 7th-stage Tao art at the origin level, He had not created one yet because he had only reached the origin level not long ago. It had only been 3,000 to 4,000 years. Rumble. At this time, as the secret technique pattern was completed, the stone door at the end of the passage instantly emitted a light that enveloped Jiang Xi. Whoosh! Jiang Xi disappeared in front of the door. He's gone in. It's only been a while, and he's already entered the next stage? His 5 elements Dao arts must have reached the origin level long ago, and it has already been perfected. I just don't know if his sword Dao and life Dao arts have reached the origin level. The blood-armored commander said in a low voice, I wonder how much he will gain in the Dao arts passage? The 4 commanders began to speculate. They knew very well what was in the Dao arts passage. There were a total of 8 stages in the passage, and they represented the inheritances of the 8 Dao arts below the origin level. The more Dao arts cultivators cultivated, the more difficult it would be for them to cultivate in the future. However, they would also become more powerful. If one could comprehend all 8 Dao arts, that would be the true limit of the Dao arts path. What made the 4 commanders even more expectant was that this warrior, Shanhai, had already embarked on the path of fusing Dao arts. Under normal circumstances, one could only create a 6-stage Dao art at most with 1 heavenly Dao as the foundation. However, the sword Dao secret technique that Shanhai had created by fusing 3 heavenly Daos was a 7-stage Dao art. If he could fuse all 8 Dao arts, what level would he reach? They could not predict because no powerful being had ever been able to do so. Not even the mighty divine king could do so. It's a pity that we won't be able to see what happens after the first stage of the Dao arts passage. The Black Mist commander sighed softly. The other 3 commanders also fell silent, and they were a little anxious. They hoped that Shanhai would be able to go further and comprehend more Dao art inheritances. The space trembled. Under the effect of the teleportation power, Jiang Xi arrived at the 2nd stage of the Dao arts passage. The 2 walls were still covered with gravel of all sizes, forming a Dao art pattern. However, Jiang Xi's gaze did not fall on the wall immediately. Instead, he stared at a small mountain of crystals in front of him. Jiang Xi was all too familiar with those crystals. Eternal fragments. This was a small mountain of eternal fragments. So many rewards? Jiang Xi was shocked. He quickly identified the number of eternal fragments. A total of 10,000 pieces. If exchanged in the military supply hall, that would be 1 million military points. Could it be that the Dao arts passage is more important? Is that why the rewards are so generous? This thought flashed through Jiang Xi's mind. However, he did not think too much about it. With a wave of his hand, the 10,000 eternal fragments disappeared and were stored in the treasure space of Heavenly Tower. At this moment, in the space of Heavenly Tower, Jiang Xi quickly condensed an avatar and began to use the interface to convert eternal fragments. 1 eternal experience points equals 1 eternal fragment. This process could be converted to each other. In other words, the Verdant Cloud Brothel directly rewarded him with 10,000 eternal experience points this time. In this way, there is no shortage of experience points. In fact, there will be more and more in the future. Then Jiang Xi began to observe and comprehend the Dao art pattern on the wall. After taking a closer look, he discovered that the 2nd stage of the Dao arts passage was Space Dao arts. This was a new Dao art that he had never comprehended before. If it was in the past, Jiang Xi could not guarantee that he could comprehend the 4th or even the 5th Dao art. But now he was full of confidence. On the wall, there were hundreds of thousands of Space Dao arts of various levels, explaining the inheritance of Space Dao arts below the origin level. With the experience points interface, as long as he followed the deduction, he could comprehend Space Dao arts. Next, Jiang Xi used the interface to deduce as he moved forward. In just an hour, he comprehended Space Dao arts at the true meaning level. Then, in just 1 day, he advanced to the domain level of Space Dao arts. In 1 month, he advanced to the path of heaven and earth level of Space Dao arts. In half a year, he advanced to the Great Dao level of Space Dao arts. In 10 years, he advanced to the Heavenly Dao level of Space Dao arts. During this process of improvement, he had been using experience points to quickly reach the perfection realm of each Dao art level, saving a lot of time. For example, the Great Dao level of Space Dao arts. If he did not have the interface, he could only rely on a little comprehension to slowly improve. He might not even be able to cultivate the great Tao of space to perfection in 10,000 or 100,000 years. However, Zhang Xi only used 10 years to raise his space Tao arts to the perfection realm of the heavenly Tao level. When he was weak, he still needed to refine spiritual fruits to replenish the energy consumption of his rapid improvement. Now with his strength he could instantly absorb and refine a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy. Naturally, he did not have to worry about this consumption. Finally, Zhang Xi walked to the second stone door. On the door there was also an incomplete secret art pattern. This segment was more time-consuming. Because this pattern was a rank 7 secret art at the origin level, he had yet to comprehend the origin of space. However, Zhang Xi was not too worried. Although this secret technique pattern was incomplete, it was still valuable as a reference for him. He could use the interface to deduce to complete this pattern. As the saying went, everything could be deduced. This was the power of the interface's deduction function. Soon Zhang Xi used another year to deduce the incomplete part. When the secret art pattern on the stone door was completed, the stone door emitted a light that enveloped Zhang Xi and teleported him to the third stage of the Tao art passage. 20,000 eternal fragments. Although he was mentally prepared, Zhang Xi was still pleasantly surprised when he saw the pile of crystal stones on the passage that was much larger. He did not hesitate and directly put them away. Then, he began to observe and comprehend the massive number of secret arts on the wall time Tao art. Zhang Xi's eyes flashed. This was the most mysterious of the 8 Tao arts. If one could cultivate it to the eternal realm, they could reverse time and space. However, according to the introduction of the 8 Clouds legacy, there were very few eternal sovereigns who cultivated the time Tao art. It could be said to be 1 in 10,000. There might not even be one eternal sovereign among 10,000 eternal sovereigns. It seems that this divine king can use a large number of secret arts of time to explain the time Tao art in such detail. He should be able to reverse time and space easily, Zhang Xi thought to himself. Next he comprehended and deduced. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye 100 years. Zhang Xi walked to the end of the third stage of the Tao art passage and saw the third stone door. This time he used 10 years to complete the third incomplete secret art pattern with the help of the interface's deduction. It was a level 7 secret art of time. At the same time, outside the verdant cloud building, whoosh! A warrior was teleported out. In the gray palace next to the verdant cloud building, the 4 commanders stood in front of the railing and looked down at the warrior who was teleported out. This is the 14th warrior to be eliminated. Their harvest on the 4th level has reached their respective limits. They can't get more and have all been eliminated, the Black Mist commander said. That Shanghai hasn't stopped yet. With his talent, he can definitely obtain more inheritance. The Blood Armor commander, who was at the Origin Divine General level, sighed. The 4 commanders looked at the verdant cloud building. Unfortunately, they couldn't see the situation beyond the Tao art passage. However, they knew very well that since Shanghai was still advancing at this time, it meant that he had a chance to enter the 5th level of the verdant cloud building and continue to advance. The longest time for an elite mission is an era. On the 4th level of the verdant cloud building, he can only stay for 10 million years at most. I wonder how much he can gain in 10 million years. Just like how the 4 commanders didn't know that Zhang Xi was about to quickly pass the 4th stage, Zhang Xi didn't know that he only had 10 million years. Of course, knowing wouldn't affect anything. He was already doing his best to deduce and comprehend. He was going all out. In the 4th stage of the Tao art passage, the rewards for the 3rd stage were placed on the passage. There were a total of 30,000 eternal fragments. On the wall was a massive number of secret arts that explained the life Tao art. Zhang Xi had already reached the level of perfected origin for this Tao art. Naturally, he passed it without any difficulty. Next, the 5th stage was the destruction Tao art. It was another brand new Tao art. Zhang Xi used 3,800 years to complete the deduction of the destruction Tao art's heavenly Tao level. Although the more Tao arts one cultivated at the same time, if one wanted to cultivate to a higher realm and comprehend new Tao arts, the difficulty would increase exponentially. However, the Tao art passage's explanation of each Tao art was too detailed. Zhang Xi had the experience panel, so it was difficult for him to not comprehend it quickly. Then, the sixth stage was the reincarnation Tao art. In the end, Jiang Xi used 20,000 years to reach the sixth stone door. Not to mention Jiang Xi's progress. On the other side, during these 20,000 years, outside the White Flame Army camp, the group of Juntian Holy Land powerhouses who had been waiting for Jiang Xi's return were about to go crazy. Didn't they say that each mission only lasted for 10,000 years at most? Why hadn't Jiang Xi returned after more than 20,000 years? At first, they all guessed that Jiang Xi had failed the mission and died outside. However, when they reported the news back to the Holy Land, they received news that Jiang Xi's clone was fine. Moreover, the Tao lords of the human race who were wandering in the Chaos Sea didn't show any sadness. This meant that Jiang Xi's original body in the Dream Origin realm might still be alive. Therefore, Juntian Supreme ordered them to continue watching. Even if Jiang Xi's original body died, they had to wait until the news of his death reached the White Flame Army. Compared to the Juntian Holy Land, the human race in the fourth universe was indeed peaceful. In the entire fourth universe, more than 70% of the territory had been occupied by the human race. The new generation of powerhouses continued to rise, and Mountain Sea Tao Lord Jiang Xi became the object of admiration and reverence of these new generation of powerhouses. However, in these tens of thousands of years, Jiang Xi seemed to have disappeared. No one knew where he went. Only a few of the upper echelons of the human race knew that Jiang Xi's original body was obtaining a great opportunity in the Dream Origin realm, so no one disturbed Jiang Xi. Even if it was Riverward's clone, no one disturbed him. In the blink of an eye, 300,000 years had passed. Chapter 677. Time passed quickly and 300,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. On the fourth floor of the Verdant Cloud Building, the seventh stage of the Tao Technique passageway, in front of the seventh stone door, Jiang Xi stood there motionless, staring at the mystic technique pattern on the stone door. He had maintained this posture for 10,000 years. Suddenly, Jiang Xi smiled, and his originally frowning brows loosened, full of relief. An epiphany suddenly enlightened. This feeling was incomparably wonderful. Although Saber Tao and Sword Tao are both Tao of killing and seem to have many similarities, when you really break them down, their essence is poles apart. Jiang Xi smiled, raised his hand, and poured immortal power into the incomplete mystic technique pattern. The rank 7 Saber Tao mystic technique in front of him was instantly completed. Buzz! The stone door released light, teleporting him to the 8th stage of the Tao technique passageway. When the power of teleportation disappeared, Jiang Xi did not need to look at the large number of mystic techniques on the wall to know what this stage was. And for him it was not difficult at all. Because the 8th stage was Sword Tao. According to the order, the 8 stages of the Tao Technique passageway were 5 elements Tao, Space Tao, Time Tao, Life Tao, Destruction Tao, Return Tao, Saber Tao, Sword Tao. Originally, he had already comprehended the 5 elements Tao, Life Tao, and Sword Tao. Now, along the way, he had finally comprehended the other 5 of the 8 Tao techniques, and all of them had reached the level of perfected Heaven Tao. Eternal fragments. Jiang Xi looked at the pile of crystal stones in the passageway, his face calm and collected, long used to it. He put away a total of 70,000 eternal fragments, and quickly converted them into eternal experience points. Then, he walked to the stone door of the 8th stage with familiarity. The countless gravel on it formed an incomplete mystic technique pattern. This was a rank 7 Sword Tao mystic technique. Jiang Xi did not hesitate and quickly completed the incomplete part. This time the stone door did not emit a teleportation light, but the entire door directly turned into an illusion and disappeared. A huge circular stone platform appeared in front of him, and from afar, one could see that there was a small mountain of eternal fragments on the stone platform. Obviously, those eternal fragments were the rewards of the 8th stage of the Tao Technique passageway. As there was no danger of life and death, Jiang Xi directly stepped on the stone platform. Suddenly, Jiang Xi became vigilant. All he could hear was an ethereal voice ringing out around him. At first it was very faint, but gradually the sound became louder. Furthermore, specks of blue starlight appeared on the circular stone platform. More and more of them appeared, as if they were endless. Finally, the blue starlight began to condense into a blurry figure. It was very illusory, as if it would disappear at any moment. The blurry figure's back was facing Jiang Xi, so he couldn't see his face clearly. To be able to come here means that you already have the qualifications to cultivate to the primordial chaos realm. The voice of the blurry figure was also very vague. It was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. Remember, cultivating 8 DAS at the same time isn't the limit. Fusing them together is the true limit. Once you reach the center of the circular platform, you'll be able to enter the 5th floor of the Verdant Cloud Pavilion. I hope that you'll be able to reach the top. The blurry figure turned his face slightly and glanced at Jiang Xi. Then he sighed softly and disappeared. Jiang Xi's gaze froze. He couldn't see the figure clearly. However, when the blurry figure stood in front of him, even though his back was facing him, he felt a sense of intimacy in his heart. It was incomparably close. This is just an illusory consciousness. It can actually affect my state of mind. Jiang Xi looked solemn. His state of mind cultivation was already at the level of an eternal supreme. However, this blurry figure's illusory consciousness could affect his state of mind greatly. Absolutely much stronger than the 8 Cloud Divine Generals. The previous 8 Cloud Divine Generals had already fallen. Back then, only an illusory consciousness was left behind in the 8 Cloud ruins. After the successor was chosen, it dissipated on its own accord. Although the illusory consciousness of a primordial chaos expert was not a complete life form, it still contained all the memories of the main body. Memory itself was a kind of power. Understanding all the memories meant understanding all the Tao techniques of the main body. Naturally, it was extraordinary. Jiang Xi estimated that the illusory consciousness just now should have been left behind by His Majesty the Divine King of the Dream Origin World. Just the illusory consciousness alone can affect my state of mind. If His Majesty the Divine King came in person, I'm afraid I'll be annihilated with just a look. Jiang Xi was shocked then. He looked around the circular stone platform again. After discovering that there was nothing else, Jiang Xi waved his hand and put away the pile of eternal fragments. Then, he quickly converted them into eternal experience points. The reward for the 8th stage of the Tao Technique passageway was 80,000 eternal fragments. In addition to the previous 7 stages, there were a total of 360,000 eternal fragments. In other words, in addition to comprehending the remaining 5 Tao techniques on the 4th level, he also gained 360,000 eternal experience points. Cultivation True Body Universe Realm Tao Lord, 900 yuan/900 yuan. Clone Universe Realm Tao Lord, 900 yuan/900 yuan. Tao Technique Sword Tao Origin 10,000 yuan/10,000 yuan. 5 Elements Origin, 10,000 yuan/10,000 yuan. Life Origin, 10,000 yuan/10,000 yuan. Space Heavenly Tao, 1,000 yuan/1000 yuan. Time Heavenly Tao, 1,000 yuan/1000 yuan. Destruction Heavenly Tao, 1,000 yuan/1000 yuan. Reincarnation Heavenly Tao, 1,000 yuan/1000 yuan. Ultimate Saber Tao, 1,000 yuan/1000 yuan. Secret Technique. Mountain Sea Sword Scripture. Heavenly Tao Scroll, 10,000 yuan/10,000 yuan. 8 Lives, Level 3, 30,000 yuan/30,000 yuan. Cloud Annihilation, Level 3, 30,000 yuan/30,000 yuan. Deduction. 1 million experience points once conversion. 1 eternal experience points equals 1 trillion experience points. 1 eternal fragment equals 1 eternal experience points. 7,421 trillion eternal experience points. 226918 yuan. Although he had obtained 360,000 eternal experience points, Jiang Xi had also consumed a lot of eternal experience points for more than 300,000 years. Just deducing the Tao techniques had consumed more than 100,000 eternal experience points. It could be said that without the rewards of each stage of the Tao technique passageway, he would not have had the chance to obtain the Tao technique inheritance later on. The other consumption was the improvement of the 2 ultimate techniques of the 8 Clouds Legacy, 8 Lives and Cloud Annihilation. The 2 ultimate techniques target the body and the primordial spirit respectively. The 3rd level is the limit of the heavenly venerable. 1 step further and I will become an eternal supreme. Jiang Xi's eyes were shining. The Dream Origin realm did not have the tyrannical laws of heaven and earth like the Chaos Sea. He could cultivate to the eternal realm here. However, there was a huge gap between the Heavenly Venerable and the Eternal Supreme. It had stopped countless talented Heavenly Venerables. However, this gap was not something that could be crossed just because one wanted to. The three paths are the body, the primordial spirit, and the Tao technique. If I break through any of them, the other two paths can be forcefully opened and I can become an Eternal Supreme. However, this method is still lacking and is not perfect. What I want to do is to break through all three paths at the same time. Only then can I truly reach the eternal limit. Zhang Xi thought to himself. He had the experience points panel. He could indeed break through to the eternal realm with his body and primordial spirit at any time. However, doing so would be equivalent to giving up the Tao technique path. Of the 8 Tao techniques, I now have 3 at the origin level. The remaining 5 are still at the heavenly Tao level. First, I will cultivate all 8 Tao techniques to the origin level. Then I will break through together. Zhang Xi was ambitious. At that time his body, primordial spirit, and Tao techniques would all break through to the limit. In that case, he would directly become an Eternal Supreme or even stronger. It could be called the strongest path. Of course, this would require him to continue to work hard in the future. Right now, his priority was still to break through the verdant cloud building. The 4th floor already has such a great opportunity. What's next? Zhang Xi could not help but look forward to it. He lifted his foot and walked to the center of the circular stone platform. Through there, he could enter the 5th floor. The next moment, boom! A pillar of light descended and enveloped Zhang Xi. Oh! In the gray palace next to the verdant cloud building, the 4 commanders were still sitting on the throne and waiting. Because they could not see Zhang Xi's scene in the depths of the Tao technique passage, they could only wait. Wang! The screen of light that had been floating in the air all this time suddenly changed. The 5th floor of the verdant cloud building. The Black Mist commander was pleasantly surprised. It hasn't even been 1,000,000 years and he has already entered the 5th floor? No matter what, he has begun to sprint from the 5th floor to the 7th floor. The Blood Armor commander, the Black Mist commander, the Beast commander, and the silver-armored female commander were all very excited at this moment. For more than 300,000 years they had been waiting here. During this period, there would be different numbers of Tao Lord warriors participating in the elite missions every 10,000 years. However, none of them could enter the 5th floor. Only this warrior, Shanhai, had not come out of the 4th floor. Now he had finally entered the 5th floor. I wonder if he can pass the 3rd floor and enter the 8th floor. If the 4th floor is the foundation of an expert, then the 5th, 6th, and 7th floors are the sublimation of strength. They are also more difficult. In the long history of the Dream Origin realm, a large number of elite warriors have reached the 5th floor. However, most of them were eliminated on the 5th floor. A small number of them were eliminated on the 6th floor, and a very small number were eliminated on the 7th floor. Only one person has reached the 8th floor so far. The 5th, 6th, and 7th floors are indeed very difficult. However, this Shanhai's talent and strength are also very powerful. It is very likely that he will pass the 3rd floor. The 4 commanders sighed and looked forward to it. The verdant cloud building hid the biggest secret of the Dream Origin realm. The 4 commanders could not see the 8th and 9th floors at all. Even the Blood Armor commander, who was a Chaos Origin Divine General, could not investigate the situation there. The 8th floor was the last obstacle. Once he passed it, he would reach the 9th floor and become the first elite Tao Lord warrior in history. However, throughout history, there had only been one extremely strong elite warrior who had made it to the 8th level, but had failed at that level. The 5th floor of the verdant cloud building was a vast world of ice and snow. Zhang Xi looked around. Only me? Where are the other warriors? There were 15 warriors who had entered the 4th floor with him. More than 300,000 years had passed. During this period he had completed at least 30 elite missions. Was there no other warrior who had reached the 5th floor except for him? Boom! Suddenly, the surrounding wind and snow swept up and enveloped Zhang Xi. The old voice sounded in Zhang Xi's mind, Warrior Shanhai, from the 5th floor onwards, you are the only one who has reached the 5th floor. There is a powerful opponent on the 5th floor. If you defeat him, you can enter the 6th floor. If you fail, you will leave the verdant cloud building. Jiang Xi nodded secretly. Indeed, only the first 3 floors had life-threatening dangers. Even if he failed now, there was no risk of dying. Suddenly, his eyes moved and he looked into the distance. He saw a figure in a white robe walking over in the vast wind and snow. He seemed to be walking slowly, but his speed was extremely fast. Jiang Xi quickly saw that it was a handsome man in a white robe. He looked exactly like a human and had a conspicuous red mole between his eyebrows. The white-robed man's eyes were full of admiration. He smiled and said, "Warrior Shanhai, I will maintain the same level as you. Since you are good at sword techniques, I will fight you with sword techniques." Whoosh! He stretched out his hand and the surrounding snowflakes gathered crazily, quickly condensing into an ice sword. At the same time, he began to emit a soaring battle intent. It felt as if he had turned into a long sword that could pierce the sky. That powerful battle intent was constantly suppressing Jiang Xi. Sword? Jiang Xi held an 8th level long sword in his hand. His battle intent was no less than his opponent's. Very good. The white-robed man nodded slightly. Take my first sword. Whoosh! His figure was like a ghost. His sword was ethereal and streaks of 5-colored sword shadows appeared one after another. Almost instantly, hundreds of millions of sword shadows appeared in front of Jiang Xi. It was as if he had fallen into a world of swords that enveloped his body and his heart, mere illusion. Jiang Xi roared in his heart. Suddenly all the illusions were destroyed. At that moment the ice sword was already in front of Jiang Xi. Clang! The ice sword and Jiang Xi's long sword collided. The white-robed man was directly sent flying backward at an extremely fast speed. Second sword. The white-robed man rushed over at an even faster speed. His aura was soaring as if he had gone mad. This sword seemed to contain a hidden space and pressed down on Jiang Xi. Break! Jiang Xi's long sword flashed with a bright sword light and met the attack directly. Whoosh! The space was directly shattered. Third sword. The white-robed man roared and attacked again. When the ice sword whistled, the flow of time seemed to have changed. It seemed to be extremely slow, but at an even faster speed it arrived in front of Jiang Xi. However, it was still defeated by Jiang Xi's sword. Seventh sword. The sword slashed down like a knife. Eighth sword. The sword was like the king of swords. The wind and snow in the vast world all gathered together. At that moment, Jiang Xi had already confirmed that the white-robed man was using the sword to perform the 8 paths Dao technique. Next, the white-robed man's 9th sword was the 5 elements sword technique, which confirmed his guess even more. 36th sword. 88th sword. 109th sword. The white-robed man was like a madman. After his sword was blocked, he immediately performed a new sword technique. Each sword technique was different. Jiang Xi remained calm. He could clearly feel that the power of the white-robed man's sword technique was constantly increasing. Every 8 sword techniques, the power would slightly increase by a level. The 4th level is the theory, and the 5th level is the application of actual combat? Jiang Xi understood. No wonder the reward was from the 4th level onwards. The white-robed man in front of him was using this method to show him the application of the 8 paths Dao technique in actual combat. The Dao technique is the foundation. Only those who can truly transform the 8 paths Dao technique into actual combat strength are true experts. Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. He took every clash of swords more seriously. Chapter 678. The power of the white-robed man's sword technique slowly increased from the level of a desolate level Dao Lord. Desolate level Dao Lord, flood level Dao Lord, Eon level Dao Lord, universe level Dao Lord. Although Riverward could easily block every sword strike, he cherished this kind of battle very much. This was because apart from the Sword Dao, Life Dao and 5 Elemental Dao, he had no other Dao techniques. He had just comprehended the other 5 Dao techniques, Space, Time, Destruction, Reincarnation and Saber Dao, and did not have much combat experience. This kind of targeted battle was even more valuable than fighting tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of times. It could quickly improve his combat understanding of the other 5 Dao techniques. In the end, the white-robed man's sword technique reached the limit of the universe level, which was a peak rank 6 secret technique. It was still an 8-element Dao technique that circulated continuously. Every strike contained endless mysteries. As Jiang Xi fought, he used his experience panel to deduce these sword moves and ponder over their mysteries. 360 slashes. The white-robed man shouted again. When this slash was also repelled by Jiang Xi, the white-robed man retreated far away. He stood in the vast world of ice and snow and did not attack again. Oh, that's it? Jiang Xi was still unsatisfied. At that moment, the white-robed man's sword technique was already at the perfected heavenly Dao level. Clearly, this elite mission was targeted at Dao Lord warriors. There would not be any Origins-level secret techniques. Since these 360 slashes can't do anything to you, take my stronger sword technique. The white-robed man said again. The ice sword in his hand instantly lit up, and a 5-colored sword beam whistled out. However, there seemed to be a world hidden in the sword beam. 5-colored world. Dao technique fusion? Jiang Xi was clearly shocked. It was a sword move formed by the fusion of the 5 elements Heavenly Dao and Space Heavenly Dao. This was the first time he had seen an expert use a fusion of Dao techniques above the Heavenly Dao level. Good timing. Jiang Xi did not retreat at all and slashed out. A resplendent sword beam traversed the world. Sword Dao, 5 elements Heavenly Dao, and Life Heavenly Dao. This was a rank 7 secret technique formed by the fusion of 3 Dao techniques. Boom! A sword with a 5-colored world. The sword was resplendent, born from destruction. The two collided. Boom! A terrifying power erupted, and the wind and snow howled, engulfing the entire 5th level. The fusion of 2 heavenly Daos actually reached the level of a 7th-tier secret technique? Jiang Xi was somewhat surprised. He had only reached this step after fusing 3 heavenly Daos. What's missing? Or is there some other mysteries behind the fusion of his Dao? Riverward immediately used the interface to deduce, wanting to find out the difference. We've finally reached this step. Haha, very good. He walks the path of Dao fusion, and the greatest value of the 5th level is the white-robed puppet's Dao fusion technique. The 4 commanders all laughed. In the past, many warriors had made it to the 5th level, and they had also learned some Daoist techniques. However, there were not many who could walk down this path. Following that, Jiang Xi also fell into a frenzied battle. He did not continue to remain calm. Instead, he wholeheartedly clashed with the white-robed man. He used the interface to deduce and at the same time comprehend the mysteries within. 399th sword. The white-robed man instantly transformed into a huge tornado. It was a tornado formed by countless golden sword lights. The golden sword lights came one after another, stacking layer upon layer, and whistling as they enveloped Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi was at the center of the tornado. He growled and suddenly swung the long sword in his hand. Disperse! Boom! 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 The tornado formed by the golden sword lights instantly exploded as Jiang Xi swung his sword. A light gray sword light suddenly burst out and spread out at a strange speed. Everything around him exploded with a loud boom. All energy and space-time exploded. The sword light tornado formed by the layers of golden sword lights also turned into nothingness. One sword annihilated everything. The white-robed man was directly thrown out, and then he stopped very far away. He looked at Jiang Xi in shock. At this moment, Jiang Xi's eyes were full of divine light. He succeeded. Although the white-robed man had fused 2 heavenly Daos each time, he had finally captured the mystery of the fusion. And just now, he had successfully taken a big step forward in the domain of mystic arts. 3 Dao techniques at the origin level and 5 Dao techniques at the heavenly Dao level had all been fused into one sword strike. That incomparably domineering sword strike seemed to be able to shatter everything and destroy the void. The power of that sword strike was an 8th-stage mystic art. If all 8 Dao techniques are at the origin level, then how powerful will this sword strike be? Jiang Xi's heart surged. Previously, at the end of the 4th level, the blurry figure had said that cultivating 8 Dao techniques at the same time was not the limit. Fusing 8 Dao techniques was the limit. Now he had done it. I created this sword strike in the verdant cloud brothel, and my goal is to reach the top of the 9th level. It's called a meteoric rise. The mountain sea sword scripture had added another powerful sword move. And this move also allowed the Mountain Sea Sword scripture to advance to a 8th-stage mystic art. In the Grey Palace, the 4 commanders looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock, incomparable shock. How did he do it? He fused 8 Dao techniques after exchanging 399 blows with the white-robed puppet? Are we witnessing history and a miracle? Are we witnessing the first peerless figure in history to fuse 8 Dao techniques? Although it's just a preliminary fusion, its power has already reached the level of an 8th-stage mystic art. 7th stage to 9th stage mystic arts corresponded to the heavenly venerate level. To be able to create an 8th stage mystic art, one could become a 2nd step heavenly venerate with a little cultivation. I'm looking forward to it even more. The Chaos Origin Divine General level blood-armored commander could not maintain his composure. His voice trembled slightly. He must reach the 9th level. No, he must reach the 9th level. He is a peerless figure like His Majesty the Divine King. The blood-armored commander stared at Zhang Xiai on the screen. The other 3 commanders also nodded. They could not hide the excitement and anticipation on their faces. Oh! On the 5th level of the Verdant Cloud Brothel. The white-robed man did not use his 400th sword strike. He looked at Zhang Xiai with a smile. 8th stage mystic art I lost. Zhang Xiai nodded slightly. He could already tell that the white-robed man's mystic art was at most at the peak of the 7th stage. Now that he had created an 8th stage mystic art, he was in an invincible position. The white-robed man smiled again. No warrior has ever created an 8th stage mystic art at this level. Almost all of them used their ultimate treasures to fight with me to the end before they barely passed. You are the first warrior to pass this level using only a mystic art. I hope you can go further in the Verdant Cloud Brothel. After he finished speaking whoosh, he turned and left, disappearing into the wind and snow. Zhang Xiai smiled slightly. This level tested one's application of mystic arts. It had little to do with ultimate treasures. He could imagine that if he took out his 9th stage ultimate treasure, the Killing Shadow Sword, the white-robed man's ice sword would become a 9th stage ultimate treasure. Boom! A beam of light shone down from the sky. It enveloped Zhang Xiai and sent him to the 6th level. On the 6th level of the Verdant Cloud Brothel, as soon as Zhang Xiai appeared, he immediately explored this world. This was a world of mountains and hills. It was also vast and boundless. As long as you block this world's attack, you can pass the 6th level and enter the 7th level. Warrior Shanhai, you are very close to reaching the top of the Verdant Cloud Brothel. The aged voice reverberated in the sky. Zhang Xi's expression was calm, but he did not let down his guard. Block this world's attack? It sounded simple, but the difficulty was probably not small. It was definitely more difficult than the 5th level. Boom! In a vast area of mountains and hills far away from Jiangxi, the vast area suddenly trembled. It was as if a huge monster was about to emerge from the ground, causing the surrounding ground to crack and bulge. A large number of mountains collapsed. Soon a huge black figure emerged from the ground. It was as if it was holding up the sky, a giant beast. Zhang Xiai kept watching. The huge black figure was a 4-legged giant beast. Its back was covered with huge spikes. No, to be precise, it was a black longsword. Roar! The giant beast raised its head and roared. Whoosh! Each of the black longswords on its back emitted a black sword light that shot out in all directions. However, they only shot out a few 100 million kilometers before dissipating. 1,000 black swords. Zhang Xiai had already confirmed the number. After the 1,000 swords giant beast roared, it looked at Zhang Xiai. Its eyes were like holes in the sky. It was incomparably huge. Its voice shook the sky. I have not come out for a very long time. Today, I finally met someone who has reached the 6th level. Warrior, I will slowly deal with you. The longer you last, the happier I will be. Haha, it is very difficult to meet a living being on the 6th level. Zhang Xiai also laughed. The longer you last? That depends on what you have. Roar! The 1,000 swords giant beast suddenly roared. Immediately after, the 1,000 black swords on its back all left its body and floated in the air. The giant beast was incomparably huge. Naturally, the black swords were not small. Each of them was 1,000,000 kilometers long. Warrior, I hope you can live long enough. The thousand swords giant beast smiled evilly. Whoosh! 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 Thousands of black swords that were 1,000,000 kilometers long whistled and attacked Jiang Xi. Like a flash of lightning, they instantly enveloped Jiang Xi's sky. Immediately after, they covered Jiang Xi and trapped him in the sword array. Jiang Xi frowned slightly. Although the momentum was vast, he did not feel any fluctuations of Taoist techniques. It seemed that the power was not that strong. However, he did not underestimate it. The rank 8 supreme treasure, purple pattern golden wings, appeared on his back. Then he flapped them and began to dodge. When Jiang Xi blocked the first sword shadow, the other 999 black swords had already surrounded him in all directions, leaving him no way to escape. Boom! Jiang Xi used his movement technique and held the long sword in his hand. In an instant, he seemed to have turned into a huge sword light and collided directly with a black sword. Then he used the force to fly backward. However, in the next moment, Jiang Xi's expression changed slightly. He only felt that a strange force had directly attacked the depths of his soul. It was as if the black sword had shrunk countless times and entered his mind, trying to tear his mind world apart. Spiritual attack? This was not the spiritual attack of the third level, but a kind of attack. The spiritual attack was a violent sense of oppression. And this black sword contained the power of the soul. Through a special attack method, it magnified this power and directly affected his mind. Strange, mysterious. Jiang Xi carefully sensed it. The spiritual attack of the black sword did not threaten him at all, because it was only at the limit of the Tao Lord level, and his mind cultivation had already reached the eternal supreme level. Of course, one black sword was the limit of the Tao Lord level. With 1,000 swords added together, even if his mind cultivation had reached the heavenly venerable level, it would directly shatter and become retarded. However, Jiang Xi was very relaxed. His movement technique was good to begin with. At most, only 10 black swords could attack him at the same time. The 5th, 6th, and 7th levels. For him, the 6th level is probably the easiest. The Black Mist Commander looked at the light screen and sighed. His mind realm is rare. It's really rare for a Tao Lord to have the mind realm of an eternal supreme, the silver-armored female commander said with a smile. In the past, many Tao Lord warriors have reached the 6th level. Many of them have the mind realm of a heavenly venerable, but in the end, not many can withstand the spiritual attack of 1,000 swords. I wonder how far this warrior Mountain Sea can go? The Beast Commander said in a muffled voice. In the end, the Chaos Essence Divine General level Blood-Armored Commander nodded and said, 1,000 swords will definitely feel embarrassed if Mountain Sea deals with it so easily. He will definitely continue to strengthen his spiritual attack. He will only stop when Mountain Sea is suppressed until he can no longer resist. I bet that 1,000 swords will have to use the 1,000 Illusion Heart Sword to defeat Mountain Sea. The Beast Commander laughed. Jiang Xi was indeed very relaxed. He even had the time to study the spiritual power of the Black Sword. This was the first time he had seen an expert using spirit force as a means of attack. Even in the vast information of the 8 Clouds inheritance, there was no record of it. Boom, boom, boom. Jiang Xi was extremely fast. His purple-patterned golden wings kept flapping, making him extremely agile. In the end, under the siege of the 1,000 black swords, he completely turned into a blurry sword shadow. The sword shadow collided with the black swords one after another, producing deafening booms. If this continues, you won't be able to do anything to me even after an era. Jiang Xi chuckled. He wanted to anger the 1,000 swords giant beast and see how strong this spiritual attack was. Little warrior. The 1,000 swords giant beast roared. It was angry. In this situation, it naturally knew that the other party was very relaxed. Suddenly, the 1,000 black swords changed. They quickly shrank, and then a layer of misty white light enveloped them. It was as if the spiritual power had materialized, but it was also extremely illusory. Whoosh! Whoosh! Although the black swords had shrunk, they had become stronger. Clang! A black sword collided with Jiang Xi. The misty white light turned into an illusion and went straight into Jiang Xi's mind. In an instant, Jiang Xi was no longer as relaxed as before. A spiritual attack at the level of a third step heavenly venerable? Jiang Xi's expression was serious. Just now his heart seemed to have been torn open, and a portion of his strength had also been lost. Of course, with his mental state cultivation he quickly recovered. I can't be hit by too many black swords at the same time. Whoosh! Jiang Xi erupted with more strength and used a small portion of the 8 Lives secret art. His strength and speed increased tenfold. The next moment, a scene of heaven and earth collapsing appeared. Rumble! A light gray sword light scattered from his long sword, causing all the energy, objects, and space-time in the surroundings to explode. The 1,000 black swords were also torn apart and thrown out. It was the new sword move of the Mountain Sea Sword Sutra. Rising Cloud. I was wrong. The beast commander looked at the screen and exclaimed, even if the 1,000 swords used the 1,000 illusion sword, it couldn't defeat him. I didn't expect him to be able to withstand such a powerful spiritual attack. It seems that this Mountain Sea not only has a high mental state cultivation, but his ability to control his mental state has also reached an extremely high level. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to block the 1,000 illusion sword so easily. The blood-armored commander sighed. It's time to go to the 7th level. Let's see if he has the ability to seize the opportunity, the Black Mist commander said. Even we can't obtain more opportunities on that level. The silver-armored female commander was also looking forward to it. Chapter 679. On the 6th floor of the Verdant Cloud building, there was a vast world of mountains and hills. Warrior, you are the strongest Dao Lord warrior I have ever met. I can't defeat you. Perhaps you can reach the top of the Verdant Cloud building. The 1,000-sword beast said with a booming voice. Then it drilled into the ground and disappeared. Riverward, on the other hand, heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that the 1,000 black swords emitting white light from before would have their power increased by another level. In that case, he was not confident that he could block it. It would be great if I could learn such a skill, Jiang Xi thought to himself. His mental state cultivation at the Eternal Supreme level was one of his advantages. However, this advantage was passive and could not be used actively. If he could learn such a spiritual attack, his opponents would be caught off guard when he used his spiritual power in the future. Armor treasures, soul armor treasures, and any other treasures would be useless. Because he did not have any treasures to defend against spiritual attacks, he could only rely on his own mental state cultivation to withstand it. Those who were weaker than him could only die. Boom! At this moment, another light beam descended from the sky and enveloped Jiang Xi, sending him to the 7th floor. The 7th floor of the Verdant Cloud brothel was a world of ice. The mountain ranges of ice seemed to be transparent. The 7th floor. Jiang Xi was full of anticipation. There are 9 floors in the Verdant Cloud building. The first 8 floors are the obstacles. As long as I pass the 8th floor and enter the 9th floor, I will succeed. At this moment he could guess that the Verdant Cloud building hid a huge secret, perhaps the biggest secret of the Dream Origin world. This was in line with his goals when he first entered the Dream Origin world. First, he wanted to break through the Heavenly Master limit in the Dream Origin world and achieve eternity. Second, he wanted the Killer Shadow Sword to break through the limit and become a rank 10 treasure. Third, he wanted to find the secret of the Dream Origin world. Now Jiang Xi was not far from these 3 goals. There are 2 more obstacles left. Perhaps I can find the ultimate secret of the Dream Origin world here. Jiang Xi observed his surroundings carefully. No matter how powerful he was, he could not let his guard down. The closer he was to victory, the more cautious he had to be. Whoosh! The cold air in the sky rippled and formed a vortex. Then a huge golden sword of light appeared. Lightsaber. Jiang Xi was a little surprised. The first 3 levels of the Verdant Cloud brothel were filled with life-threatening dangers, and the 3rd level was exactly the same. There was a whirlpool and a gigantic sword of light. The lightsaber would release streaks of white sword light, bringing about a psychological impact on the warriors. It's the same on the 7th level. Could it be another spirit shock? Jiang Xi was puzzled. This test will be repeated, right? Wang. The golden light sword released a misty golden light that enveloped the area below in Jiang Xi's body. Warrior Mountain Sea. The old voice sounded in Jiang Xi's mind. Pass the test of the heart sword and you can enter the 8th floor of the Green Cloud brothel. In the next moment, the old voice disappeared. Boom! The blurry golden light released by the light sword instantly erupted with a powerful spiritual impact. It was like a waterfall wanting to crush Jiang Xi's mental state. Jiang Xi only frowned slightly with a serious expression. It was really a spiritual impact, but it was much more powerful than the third level. The first level was at the first step Heavenly Venerable level, while the third level only had Desolate level Tao Lords. It seems that it will be difficult to pass this level. Jiang Xi looked up at the huge golden sword of light. He did not dodge. The spiritual impact was invisible and formless. There was no way to dodge and could only be resisted. In the Grey Palace, the 4 commanders were still staring at the screen. With his mental state cultivation, it shouldn't be a problem for him to pass the 7th level, said the blood-armored commander. I just don't know how much of the Thousand Heart Sword technique he can learn. The Thousand Heart Sword technique is a special mystic technique created by His Majesty the Godly King. It can be said to be the most special attack method, said the Black Mist commander with a sigh. In our dream origin world, only the elites or experts who have made special contributions will be bestowed with the Thousand Heart Sword technique. However, they will only be bestowed with a portion of it. Yes, there were 6 Tao Lord warriors who reached the 7th level. 5 of them failed, and 1 of them successfully reached the 8th level. Among the 6 of them, the worst one did not even fully comprehend the first level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. The best one only learned the 3rd level. I wonder how many levels this warrior Mountain Sea can learn. Jiang Xi did not know that the reward hidden on the 7th level was the spiritual attack that he had been thinking about when he passed the 6th level. At this moment, he was still resisting the spiritual impact of the golden sword of light with his mental state cultivation. Do I have to keep resisting like this? Jiang Xi thought. I wonder what the limit of the spiritual impact on this level is. Will it reach the eternal supreme level? If that was the case, it was still uncertain whether he could pass this level. After all, his mental state was only at the eternal supreme level. If the spiritual impact really exceeded his tolerance limit, he might fall unconscious and be teleported out. It's only the 7th level now. If it's really that crazy, who can reach the top? Jiang Xi shook his head. He was still confident in himself. The misty golden light enveloped Jiang Xi as if he was wearing a layer of golden armor. The power of the spiritual impact continued to increase, and soon reached the limit of a heavenly venerable. However, Jiang Xi still felt very relaxed. Jiang Xi's eyes moved, and he turned to look at a glacier mountain in the distance. That is, ancient words began to appear inside the almost transparent iceberg. It was the common language of the primordial realm civilization. With Jiang Xi's foundation, he could naturally recognize it instantly. Soon, the densely packed words completely filled the interior of the iceberg. Jiang Xi also saw clearly what those words recorded. The first level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. The Thousand Heart Sword technique? Jiang Xi was pleasantly surprised. Haha, the reward is indeed from the 4th level onwards. Although there is a test, the better the performance in the test, the better the reward. I didn't expect that the 7th level would directly reward me with a spiritual attack technique. This was definitely a great gain for him. It was another great opportunity. One had to know that even the Godly King level 8 Cloud's inheritance that he possessed did not record any spiritual attack technique. Obviously, the 8 Clouds of the past generations, including the founder, the 8 Clouds Godly King, did not know how to use spiritual power. However, the Godly King of the Dream Origin realm had such a technique. Spiritual attacks were invisible and formless. No treasure could defend against it. It was definitely a great weapon in battle. Any spiritual life has thoughts and thoughts. The essence of thoughts and thoughts is spiritual power. When a weak life dies, the spiritual power will dissipate. And on the strong, the spiritual power will be reflected to a certain extent. For example, the pressure of a strong person. Even if a strong person dies, the spiritual power that permeates his body will not dissipate. Even a drop of blood, a piece of scale, or a strand of hair will contain a powerful spiritual impact. When a strong person is alive and fighting with an opponent, the one with a stronger state of mind will be able to make the opponent uneasy with just a glance. He will have the upper hand before making a move. If the difference in state of mind cultivation is too great, Perhaps a glance will cause the opponent's mind to collapse and fall into a coma. Jiang Xi looked at the opening content of the first level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique and nodded as he read. Obviously, what was mentioned at the beginning was only the crudest and most superficial use of spiritual power. There was no technique to speak of. Next was the main event. Only when one state of mind cultivation has reached the level of an eternal supreme can one cultivate this technique. This was the content after the first level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. However, the content of the first level was vast. Inside this transparent iceberg, paragraphs of text were still constantly emerging. Jiang Xi's primordial spirit was already at the limit of a heavenly master. He could remember a lot of content at a glance, but he still felt that his speed was not enough. At this moment, the spiritual impact emitted by the golden light sword in the sky was constantly increasing. It had already surpassed the limit of a heavenly master and continued to rise. There was a huge gap between the limit of a heavenly master and the eternal supreme. It was the same in terms of state of mind. It would take a certain amount of time for one to reach the level of an eternal supreme. Therefore, Jiang Xi could still easily withstand it for now. Finally, when no more new words appeared inside the iceberg, everything came to a stop. The first level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique was fully revealed. It took such a long time for the first level to completely appear. If one's state of mind cultivation has not reached the level of a heavenly master, I'm afraid one can't even finish reading the first volume. Jiang Xi sighed. Just as the first volume was completely revealed, Jiang Xi looked at another iceberg in the distance and saw that words had also begun to appear inside the iceberg, the second level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. Jiang Xi was overjoyed and quickly entered the shorthand state again. Soon, he had completely memorized the second level. Jiang Xi heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the spiritual impact emitted by the golden light sword was already close to that of an eternal supreme. A moment later, it's coming again. Jiang Xi quickly turned around and looked at another iceberg beside him. Words began to appear there as well. In the Grey Palace. This is already the third level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. Soon, the Black Fog commander stared at the screen. So fast. He has finished learning the third level. Compared to the warriors of the past, he is already the best of all the warriors in history. The Thousand Heart Sword technique has a total of 8 levels. I wonder which level he has learned. The Chaos Essence Divine General level Blood Armored Commander shook his head. His Majesty the Godly King didn't put all 8 levels on the 7th level, did he? Who knows? The highest level of the Downlord warriors before him only learned the 3rd level. Who knows how many levels His Majesty put on the 7th level? The other 2 commanders also wanted to believe it. They did not know either. Although the 4 commanders were eternal level elites, even they had not obtained all 8 levels of the Thousand Heart Sword technique. After all, for a superpower, this kind of powerful inheritance was more important as it progressed. The powerhouses below would definitely be able to obtain more based on merit and talent. The 4th level. It's already the 4th level. The spiritual impact of the Heart Sword should be at the level of an eternal supreme. However, this mountain sea does not seem to feel much. Depends on the situation. He will be able to comprehend more. The 4 commanders were looking forward to it. They were also curious. How much could this unprecedented Downlord warrior learn? On the 7th floor of the Verdant Cloud Brothel, Jiang Xi stood in front of an iceberg and heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally memorized all the contents of the 4th level. The content of each level of the Thousand Heart Sword technique was very long and vast. Just the time for the words to appear took a while. He was afraid that the spiritual impact of the golden light sword would reach his limit. The 5th level. Jiang Xi looked at another iceberg. A large number of words constantly appeared inside the transparent iceberg. In just a moment, a small part of the 5th level had appeared. His expression changed. Not good. Jiang Xi looked up at the golden light sword in the sky. The power of the golden light that was constantly emitting had finally reached the level of an eternal supreme. And it was constantly increasing. There is pressure. Jiang Xi suddenly felt that his consciousness was not as clear as before. He was affected. Faster. Faster. He did not waste time and hurriedly continued to memorize the contents of the 5th level. However, after the power of this spiritual impact crossed the gap between a heavenly venerable and an eternal supreme, it seemed that the speed of the increase in power had also increased. Jiang Xi knew that this was his own illusion, because his mental state cultivation was only at the level of an eternal supreme. Now that he was getting closer and closer to his limit, his state was declining faster and faster. Faster, faster, faster. Jiang Xi's gaze focused as he stared at the iceberg. Another 15 seconds passed. The contents of the 5th level had completely appeared. In the next moment, a new level began to appear on another iceberg. The 6th level. Jiang Xi also felt that the speed of the emergence of the 1,000-heart sword technique was also increasing. It seemed that the stronger the spiritual impact was, the faster the words appeared on the iceberg. Boom! Jiang Xi only felt the sound of the universe exploding in his mind. His mental state world was trembling violently. His entire body was trembling and his face was pale. However, he still persevered and kept memorizing the contents of the 6th level at this moment. The power of the spiritual impact had reached the level of an eternal supreme. Bang! Jiang Xi's mental state had reached its limit. He could no longer hold on and sat on the ground. No, I can still hold on. His entire body seemed to be on the verge of collapse. His consciousness was blurred, and his body trembled violently. One had to know that the strength of his primordial spirit was only at the limit of a heavenly venerable. If it was an ordinary heavenly venerable, his mental state would have collapsed in an instant. However, Jiang Xi was still trying his best to look up at the iceberg with his last bit of consciousness. I can't fall down. At least this 6th level. I must finish reading the 6th level. Crack, crack, crack. The veins on Jiang Xi's body bulged, and a terrifying aura erupted uncontrollably. The surrounding glaciers were cracking. However, the iceberg was not affected at all. Seconds passed. In Jiang Xi's eyes, this second seemed to be as long as 10,000 years. It was as if the speed at which the words appeared inside the iceberg had also slowed down. Finish reading. Finish reading. Finish reading. This was the only thought left in Jiang Xi's mind. He forgot everything and stared into the distance. Finally, the contents of the 6th level of the 1,000-heart sword technique appeared. He finished reading. At the same time, in another iceberg, the 7th level of the 1,000-heart sword technique appeared. However, at this moment Jiang Xi could no longer hold on. The last string in his heart snapped and his mental state world collapsed. He did not have the chance to see the 7th level at all. Boom! A beam of light descended from the sky and enveloped the unconscious Jiang Xi. His figure disappeared. Chapter 680. God King Valley. In the Grey Palace next to the Verdant Cloud Brothel. In the main hall on the 3rd floor, the 4 great commanders fell into silence. Everything was silent. They stared fixedly at the screen of light. The rapidly changing images of the 7th floor made them feel suffocated. At the final juncture, the 1,000-heart sword art appeared faster and faster. There was no gap between each level. The longer they persevered, the more they might be able to see the contents of the next level. From this, it could be seen that the closer a Tao Lord was to the limit, the harder it was to advance. That was why the 1,000-heart sword art appeared so quickly in the later stages. The 5th level is complete. The 6th level. The 6th level is complete too. Unfortunately, he's fallen. Seeing Jiang Xi's figure disappear on the screen, the 4 commanders actually heaved a sigh of relief. They exchanged glances and smiled. A full 6 levels. He's destined to be stronger than us, the Chaos Origin Divine Champion said with a sigh. They were all amazed. Even they had only learned the first 5 levels when the God King had bestowed them with the sword art. But this warrior Mountain Sea, a Tao Lord, had learned the first 6 levels of the 1,000-heart sword art. At this moment, the 4 commanders were also staring at the screen as they spoke. Put it away. The blood-armored commander smiled. The Black Mist commander nodded. Then the screen in the center of the hall disappeared. This was because even the 4 commanders couldn't see the scenes on the 8th and 9th floors of the Verdant Cloud Brothel. So, what exactly was happening in the Verdant Cloud Brothel? What were the difficulties of the 8th floor? What big secrets did the 9th floor hold? What did the God King leave behind? They had no idea. Wait. We can only wait. If he really succeeds, the elite mission will automatically disappear. There was only one verdant cloud brothel. There was only one elite mission for Tao Lord warriors. Once someone succeeded, the mission would disappear and never appear again. Will he succeed? The Black Mist commander was still worried. The only Tao Lord warrior who entered the 8th floor failed after he failed. We asked him about it, but his memories of the 8th floor were erased. Even he doesn't know what happened there. There must be a big secret on the 8th floor. Otherwise, the God King wouldn't have erased his memories, said the silver-armored female commander. Let's wait. Although the 4 commanders were anxious in their hearts, they still maintained their calm and curiosity. They were born in the Dream Origin realm and were naturally loyal to His Majesty the Godly King. If His Majesty the God King ordered them to die, they would not hesitate. However, they were also curious. His Majesty the Godly King had left the verdant cloud brothel behind in order to wait for a peerless figure. What kind of peerless figure could make His Majesty the Divine King wait like this? And what was on the 8th and 9th floors of the verdant cloud brothel? Jiang Xi felt space-time distort as he arrived at the 8th level. At this moment, his mind was still immersed in the scene on the 7th floor. Judging from the power of the mental impact at the end of the 7th floor, my mental state cultivation should be close to that of an eternal great sovereign, but it's still a little lacking. Although I didn't get the full content of the 1,000-heart sword technique, the 6 stages are enough for me to practice for a long time. Jiang Xi was very satisfied with his harvest this time. From the 2 ultimate arts of 8 Clouds Inheritance, 8 Lives and Cloud Annihilation were also at the 8th level, but the 6th level was the Chaos Origin Divine King realm. From this, it could be inferred that the first 6 stages of the 1,000-heart sword technique were enough for him to practice for a long time. I'm now on the 8th floor, which is also the final hurdle of the verdant cloud brothel. It's also the final obstacle for me to reach the 9th floor. Jiang Xi collected his thoughts and looked around. This was a void world. In the vast void, there was only a small floating continent. It was very small, with a diameter of only 1,000,000 kilometers. Jiang Xi did not hesitate as he transformed into a stream of light and flew towards the small continent. It didn't look far, but it took a lot of time to fly. This was because the 8th floor's void seemed to be suppressed by something. He couldn't teleport or increase his speed. So, after a long time, Jiang Xi finally arrived on the continent at a glance. The entire small continent was bare without any debris. However, there were many ancient primordial realm words on the ground. Oh! Jiang Xi quickly read the entire content. The 8th floor of the verdant cloud brothel is the final hurdle of the elite sequence mission. Observe the void around you and you will be able to learn a secret technique. If you can master it, you can reach the 9th floor of the verdant cloud brothel. If you fail, your memory will be erased and you will leave the verdant cloud brothel. After reading it, all the words disappeared. Jiang Xi immediately looked up at the surrounding void. As expected, huge words began to appear in the void in all directions. Every word was like a star that was connected to each other. The countless words in the void were like a chaotic picture scroll. There were no pauses or sentences, and all the words were connected. It was unknown which word was the beginning and which was the end. There was no order at all. So chaotic. To cultivate the secret technique, I have to sort out the complete content of the secret technique first? But there's no beginning or end. The order of the words is completely messed up. How long will it take to form a sentence and then the entire secret technique? Jiang Xi frowned. This was only the first step. He still had to cultivate. Of course, he wasn't worried about this step because he had the experience points panel. As long as he had the complete secret technique, he could complete the cultivation. The most important thing now was to sort out the secret technique. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. How do I cultivate? Jiang Xi looked at the words in the void. Every word was emitting light and flickering. It was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. The countless words were like a huge picture scroll that was connected from head to tail. It was displayed in front of Jiang Xi just like that. However, Jiang Xi couldn't understand it. It was as if the meaning of those words was not as simple as it seemed. Even the flickering light had a pattern. Not only did the words have to be combined, but the pattern of the light also had to be matched. Do I have to stop at the 8th level? Jiang Xi shook his head. With the strength of his peak heavenly venerable primordial spirit, it was difficult for him to analyze the correct combination of the words and the pattern of the light. At the same time, he was also using the panel to deduce. However, the efficiency of this kind of deduction was obviously not as high as the efficiency of deducing the secret technique pattern. Fortunately, there were still changes. After an unknown period of time buzz, suddenly Jiang Xi, who had been immersed in deducing the star words, felt all the words in the void light up. In an instant, his spiritual consciousness was sucked into the picture scroll. This process was like his spiritual consciousness entering the Tongtian mountain river painting. But now, almost all of his spiritual awareness had entered the scroll of words in the void. Jiang Xi's body stood motionless on the small floating land. The star words in the void around him shone brightly. They were flickering one after another, containing a special pattern. Whoosh! A blurry figure condensed and appeared in the void. It was not clear whether it was a man or a woman. It could only be confirmed that it was a humanoid. The blurry figure looked at Jiang Xi standing there and sighed softly. This is the second one. Could it be him? The last person who successfully entered the picture scroll world failed very quickly. This time, perhaps we are too delusional. The blurry figure shook his head again. Life is mysterious, reincarnation is mysterious. In this vast world, the probability of waiting for him is too small. The blurry figure didn't disappear. He just watched and waited in the void. In the picture scroll world, after the stellar transposition, Riverward's spiritual sense arrived in front of a palace shining with purple light. This palace was located at the top of an endless mountain. It was incomparably majestic. Looking carefully, he saw that everything was shrouded in clouds and mist. It looked blurry. With just a glance, he could feel a strong pressure. What is this place? My spiritual consciousness was forcefully pulled in? Jiang Xi felt more and more mysterious with his state of mind cultivation and the strength of his primordial spirit. Even an eternal supreme could not pull his spiritual consciousness out of his body silently. Just now, I seemed to have used the panel to deduce some patterns. He thought of this again. It seemed that those patterns were like the key to opening the picture scroll. Once comprehended, he could enter the picture scroll world. Come in, come in. Suddenly, there was a series of calls from the purple light palace. This voice made Jiang Xi, who was still in deep thought, instantly fall into a muddle-headed state. He unconsciously walked toward the door of the hall and into the depths of the hall. Jiang Xi suddenly woke up and immediately looked around. I'm in the hall? Without any warning, he directly controlled me. The gap is too big. Fortunately, there was no danger to his life behind the verdant cloud brothel. Otherwise, he would really be at the mercy of others. Jiang Xi calmed down and carefully observed his surroundings. He saw that this was an extremely gorgeous hall. Stone pillars with mysterious patterns stood in the hall. There were also a lot of decorations on the distant walls. And all of this emitted a powerful pressure. Jiang Xi wanted to see clearly, but he couldn't see anything clearly. He couldn't even see the ground under his feet. Boom! The entire hall shook violently. Jiang Xi immediately turned his head and saw a small beast appear out of thin air behind him. The small beast's body was covered in black scales. Its appearance was similar to a lion. There was a purple horn on its forehead. Its eyes were glowing with purple light. When it walked in the hall, the entire hall seemed to tremble. You are? Jiang Xi took the initiative to ask. I'm that mystic art you're looking for, the small beast said smugly. You're the mystic art? Jiang Xi was surprised. Even supreme treasures have spirits. Why can't mystic arts have spirits? The small beast started laughing. Mystic art spirit. Jiang Xi was instantly pleasantly surprised in his heart. If it were other powerhouses, they probably wouldn't understand the value of a mystic art spirit. But he had the Divine King level 8 Cloud's inheritance. He naturally knew this. Only Chaos Essence Divine King level super powerhouses had the strength to refine their absolute art into a mystic art spirit, and pass it down. Mystic arts having spirits would choose a truly suitable master. If other powerhouses attempted to rely on powerful strength to forcefully seize the mystic art spirit, they would only fail in the end. Back then, the Eight Clouds lineage's founding ancestor, Eight Clouds Divine King, had also refined two great absolute arts, Eight Lives and Cloud Annihilation, into mystic art spirits. But in that battle where Eight Clouds Divine King fell, the two great mystic art spirits were also destroyed. And in the subsequent generations of Eight Clouds, none of them reached the Divine King level again. Therefore, this Divine King level inheritance didn't have a mystic art spirit. What kind of mystic art is it that it specially created a mystic art spirit? Jiang Xi guessed in his heart. He knew that the reward on the 8th level was probably not inferior to the 8 elemental Dao arts and 1000 heart sword technique. Its value might even be higher. At this moment, the small beast said again, "Since you can enter the scroll world, you must have some foundation. But whether you can obtain this mystic art will depend on your strength. Look carefully." With that said, the small beast's horn shot out 4 rays of light. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The 4 rays of light landed in 4 different directions of the hall. Suddenly, huge scrolls appeared on the 4 walls of the hall at the same time. The scrolls fell and revealed countless words. Only 3 of the scrolls had words that couldn't be read clearly. Only one scroll, which was the scroll that blocked the hall's door, had words that could be read clearly by Jiang Xi. There are 4 scrolls. The small beast continued. The only one you can see clearly is the entire mystic arts Daoyin method. Daoyin method? Jiang Xi nodded. He knew this. Usually, only super experts at the primordial chaos realm would use the Daoyin method to select their inheritors when they left behind their legacies. However, this method of selection was very strict. Over a long period of time, one might not necessarily find a suitable inheritor. For example, the Eight Clouds legacy was different. It had been passed down for many generations and Eight Clouds Divine King had already fallen. The difficulty of the selection was much lower and it was easier to select an inheritor. It seems like this mystic art was left behind by His Majesty Divine King from the Dream Origin world. Jiang Xi came to a conclusion. Otherwise, he wouldn't use the Daoyin method to select an inheritor. Then the test on the 8th level of the Verdant Cloud Brothel is to master the Daoyin method and obtain the complete mystic art. It was no wonder that this was the most difficult level. This was because it was a two-way choice. It wasn't something that could be learned just because one wanted to. Jiang Xi raised his head and looked at the huge scroll floating above the hall door. The small beast beside him also said, "This Daoyin method has very strict requirements. It's best if the cultivator's cultivation is at the Dao Lord level. At most, it can't exceed the Heavenly Venerable level. Otherwise, there's no chance of success." Jiang Xi nodded. He had no problem with this. Although his body and essence spirit were already at the limit of a Heavenly Venerable, his cultivation was still at the universe realm. Then, he continued to focus on the Daoyin scroll. He instantly memorized the countless primordial realm words on it. Jiang Xi began to organize his thoughts and comprehend it properly. As long as he could record this Daoyin method into his experience points panel, regardless of whether he was a suitable inheritor or not, he could forcibly level up and obtain the complete mystic art. This Daoyin method has very high requirements. The small beast was still talking. Ever since I was created by Master, there have been countless peerless geniuses who tried to obtain it. However, none of them succeeded. Jiang Xi glanced at it. Countless geniuses? There shouldn't be many who could make it to the 8th level of the Verdant Cloud Brothel, right? It seemed like the Dream Origin world was really just a military camp for the Divine King to cultivate elites. The small beast should have followed the Divine King and lived in the upper realm. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come into contact with so many peerless geniuses. As for you, I don't think you stand a chance. You'll fail. The small beast glanced at Jiang Xi proudly. Chapter 681. The spirit of the secret technique in the form of a little beast was certain that Jiang Xi would fail. Fail. Jiang Xi ignored the little beast and began to sort out the contents of the guide scroll. He pondered over every detail and soon understood the detailed steps of cultivation. Then he began to try to cultivate. This scene surprised the little beast. He's straightforward. He's going to cultivate directly. However, he'll probably fail. The little beast shook its head and then lay down in the main hall, waiting by the side. It was waiting for Jiang Xi to fail and then send Jiang Xi out. The moment Riverward cultivated, he fell into a special state. His main body and avatar were immersed in it, and began to cultivate involuntarily. Universe 4 Milky Way Galaxy Earth. Now Jiang Xi's avatar was stationed on Earth, and the entire Milky Way Galaxy had become one of the holy lands of the human race. It was called the Milky Way Holy Land. Usually, there were many perfected lords and tribulation transcenders stationed all over the Milky Way Holy Land. Earth was even more prosperous. Whoosh! At this moment, a powerful mental impact spread from Earth instantly. It spread to the entire solar system at an unstoppable speed, and then continued to spread to the entire Milky Way Holy Land. All life, whether ordinary people or ordinary beasts, tribulation transcenders or perfected lords, were swept by this mental impact and fell into a coma. Fortunately, this mental impact did not contain any offensive power. Otherwise, these life forms would have all died in an instant. Retreat. Quick. Retreat from the Milky Way Holy Land. At the periphery of the Milky Way Holy Land, those powerhouses who had not been affected immediately took the teleportation array and left the Milky Way Holy Land. In the end, the powerful mental impact, with some faint white light, completely covered the entire Milky Way Holy Land. Some of the higher-ups of the human race and some of the Tao Lords in the human camp also came to the edge of the Milky Way Holy Land. What's going on? What's wrong with Lord Mountain Sea's avatar? What kind of terrifying means is this? It's not like the suppression of the primordial spirit, but the pressure it brings is so strong that even the Tao Lords can't withstand it. I'm standing at the edge and I feel shocked. One by one, the Tao Lords stood in the starry sky and looked at the Milky Way Holy Land shrouded in a layer of white light. They didn't know what had happened, but they were all guessing. Perhaps Jiang Xi had encountered an opportunity in the dream origin realm and obtained a powerful secret method. Now he was cultivating it, which led to this situation. Wang. Two figures appeared one after another, emitting powerful pressure. They were Venerable Ming and Heavenly Venerable Nine Firmament. Now that more than 300,000 years had passed, Tao Lord Nine Firmaments had already become a celestial lord with the various legacies that Jiang Xi had brought over. Greetings to you, Empyrean Bright Sun, Empyrean High Firmaments. The Tao Lords all bowed respectfully, passed down the order. Celestial Master Ninth Firmament ordered, seal off the entire Milky Way sacred land. Do not allow any living beings to enter. Do not spread any news about this place. Yes. Instantly, 10 Tao Lords accepted the order and immediately went to make the arrangements. Both Venerable Ming and Heavenly Venerable Nine Firmaments were staring at the Milky Way Holy Land, which was shrouded in white light. They were secretly communicating with each other. What technique is this? It doesn't seem like a secret method or the power of the primordial spirit. Venerable Ming asked through voice transmission. Jiang Xi told me that he obtained a spiritual attack technique some time ago. Perhaps this is a spiritual attack. Celestial Master Ninth Firmament replied through voice transmission, but his tone was filled with worry. Now he didn't know what Jiang Xi was experiencing or if he was in danger. Dream Origin Realm, 8th floor of Verdant Cloud Inn, in the Void World. Jiang Xi stood on the small piece of land motionless. His body was covered in spots of white light, and his entire body seemed to be emitting spiritual attacks. The spots of white light transformed into tiny patterns that fused into his body and primordial spirit, as though they were imprinting themselves. This was a test that came from the inside out. It was the most fundamental test. And in this test, Jiang Xi's spiritual power naturally fused with his body and primordial spirit. Under normal circumstances, the spiritual power of an expert was like rootless duckweed. Once they died, even if their body wasn't destroyed, the spiritual power would dissipate. And Jiang Xi's spiritual power was now fusing with his body and primordial spirit this way. His spiritual power would have a root. Only then would he be able to unleash a spiritual attack. This was the prerequisite for cultivating the Thousand-Heart Sword technique and all other spiritual attack techniques. And after completing this step, even if the expert died, a drop of blood, a strand of hair, a piece of skin, or an illusory consciousness left behind would contain a powerful spiritual attack. This process was very slow and it took nearly 1,000 years. Originally, the surface of Jiangxi's body was flickering with spots of white light, but suddenly it turned blue. Boom! Universe 4 Milky Way Sacred Land. The spiritual attack emitted by Jiangxi's clone increased explosively again. The expressions of the Tao Lords guarding the borders of the Milky Way Sacred Land changed drastically. What's going on? The pressure is getting stronger again. Even though they were very far away, they could feel a pressure that came from the depths of their souls. Only some Tao Lords with high cultivation could withstand it. The other ordinary Tao Lords could only struggle to resist or retreat far away. In the void on the 8th floor of the verdant cloud building, the blurry figure was still looking at Jiangxi, who was standing on land. He has entered the second stage. The blurry figure trembled, and his hazy eyes seemed to be filled with excitement. When I was in the upper realm, the guiding scroll was spread out. Many geniuses from the various superpowers went in and tried it. However, those who enter the second stage are few and far between, extremely few. Then in this lower realm, only he can enter the second stage. Could it be? No matter what, you must succeed. The blurry figure was also looking forward to it. In the word scroll world, Little Beast, who was lying there, also looked up at Jiangxi in shock. He actually entered the second stage? There are a total of 3 stages in the guiding technique, and he can actually enter the second stage. Since I was born, countless geniuses from the superpowers have come in and tried it. Some of those geniuses have obtained extremely precious inheritances, and some have been endlessly nurtured from the beginning, but the number of peerless geniuses who can withstand it and enter the second stage is less than 50. What's the background of this kid? Time passed day by day. Jiangxi had no idea how big of a commotion he had caused. Pain. Torture. Purgatory. This was what Jiangxi was feeling now. He had finished reading the guiding scroll and knew that there were a total of 3 stages in the cultivation of the guiding technique. The first stage was still okay and easy, but from the second stage onwards, his body and primordial spirit would be subjected to cruel treatment. The fine patterns formed by the power of the soul were like countless thin needles piercing through his body and primordial spirit. At the same time, they were like countless scorching marks. This was an unprecedented pain. It was also the first time he had experienced it since he started cultivating. Could it be that there's a danger of dying while cultivating the guiding technique? Jiangxi was a little worried. But now that he had entered a special state of cultivation, he could not retreat. He could only complete the cultivation. He looked at the experience panel. Heart Origin Meridian. Guiding Technique Second Stage 1 Yuan 50,000 Yuan. This was the information that was recorded on the panel after he started cultivating the guiding technique. Obviously, after completing the energy channeling technique, he would be able to draw out a powerful technique called the Heart Origin Sutra. The guiding technique of the Heart Origin Meridian had a total of 3 stages, which were 3 realms. The first stage required 30,000 eternal experience points. It took him nearly 1,000 years to fill up the registration experience for the first level before he reached the second level. For me, with the interface, cultivating the Daoyin method shouldn't be difficult, Riverward thought to himself. He had obtained 360,000 eternal experience points on the 4th floor of the Verdant Cloud brothel, so there was no problem in terms of experience points now. The most difficult thing is to resist the pain of the spiritual mark. Jiangxi only felt that every inch of his body and primordial spirit was trembling. Intense pain. Chapter 682. In the Purple Hall, Jiangxi was completely immersed in the cultivation of the guide scroll. His entire body was enveloped by blue light. I've already entered the second stage. The little beast was looking forward to it. As long as I can enter the third stage, it'll be fine. Over the countless years, no inheritor has been able to enter the third stage. Kid, work hard. You must enter the third stage. Once you enter the third stage, failure means death. But if you succeed, no matter how bad you are in the future, only those peerless godly kings will be able to suppress you. The little beast was looking forward to it. The fate of its existence was to find a suitable inheritor. Once it found it, the spirit of the secret art would dissipate. But it did not care. From the day it was born, what it pursued was the moment of brilliance when it recognized a master. Universe 4 Milky Way Holy Land. The huge galaxy was enveloped by blue light. Just like that, nearly 2,000 years passed. Buzz. All of the blue light turned into countless specks of purple light. And these purple lights seemed to be connected to each other, forming an incomparably vast mysterious pattern. Boom! The spread of the spiritual impact increased again. Not good. The Tao Lords who had been guarding the edge of the Milky Way Holy Land instantly fainted. Only 2 Universe Tao Lords were still conscious. Even if they were not covered by the light, they could not withstand the spiritual impact. Soon the human camp was in an uproar. Tao Lord Mountain Sea's mysterious attack, which did not distinguish between friend and foe, caused 38 of the 40 Tao Lords guarding the edge of the Milky Way Holy Land to faint. This shocked all the experts in the human camp. This was only a scattered attack. If it was concentrated on the enemy, how terrifying would it be? Heavenly Sovereign Ninth Firmament ordered again. Do not spread any information. Otherwise, it will be considered a crime of defecting to the enemy. Last time, when the Milky Way Holy Land was enveloped by the white light, he had ordered to seal everything. This time, his order was even stricter. Jiangxi, no matter what, you have to come back alive. Heavenly Sovereign Ninth Firmament looked at the Milky Way Holy Land covered in purple light and thought to himself, he knew very well that how could such a heaven-defying method be so easy to obtain? Just by looking at how Jiangxi was completely cut off from the outside world, it was obvious that Jiangxi was very likely in terrible danger. Dream Origin Realm. In the void world on the 8th floor of Verdant Cloud Building, Jiangxi was shrouded in purple light spots. His body and primordial spirit were imprinted with large amounts of purple patterns at every moment. Boom! Waves of powerful mental attacks spread out in all directions. The 3rd stage. Since the creation of the guide scroll, no one has ever entered the 3rd stage. It's him. It must be him. I've been waiting for this moment for so long. The blurry figure in the void was trembling with excitement and nervousness. I can't fail. This is the last stage. I can't fail. In the world of the text scroll, the little beast also looked nervously at Jiangxi. It could tell that this Tao Lord expert was also experiencing a terrifying nightmare. This is a test of the soul. If you want to cultivate this unprecedented soul art, which is said to be the strongest attack in the myriad heavens, you will have to pay the price. Your mind, body, and primordial spirit must meet the requirements. If you can't reach the bottom line, you can only die. Brat, hold on. You have to hold on. As long as you can hold on, you will enter a brand new world. Time passed. Heart Origin Sutra Daoin Level 3. 1 yuan/100,000 yuan. Jiangxi was using the interface to continuously increase the level of the Daoin method. This was not difficult for him at all. Instantly, the little beast turned into specks of starlight and surged into Jiangxi's consciousness. Then a huge amount of information appeared. In the void on the 8th floor of the Verdant Cloud Building, the blurry figure had been waiting anxiously for 5,000 years until the light that enveloped Jiangxi dissipated, especially the star runes that were originally revolving around the void. They surged towards Jiangxi crazily. Success! The blurry figure heaved a sigh of relief. He stared at Jiangxi's figure and muttered, "Is it him? It should be him, right?" Chapter 683. In the distance, Jiangxi was the only one standing quietly on the floating land. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes. "I've passed the 8th level." Jiangxi looked around. The astral text in the void had disappeared. He knew that the mystic technique represented by the astral text had integrated into his body. Yuan? It's actually Yuan. The shock in Jiangxi's heart did not disappear. Who else could use this name? It was naturally the Emperor Lord of the Primordial Realm, who had once embarked on the final path. As the Emperor Lord of the Primordial Realm failed at the final step, the Primordial Realm was occupied by its old rival, the Astral Realm. The Primordial Realm's chaos also plummeted. Dream Origin Realm. No wonder it's called Dream Origin Realm. Jiang Xi finally sighed. I actually obtained his inheritance. Then, he began to recall the information about the mystic technique he had just obtained. When he began cultivating the Daoyin art, he already knew the name of this mystic technique. Heart Origin Sutra. The seemingly ordinary name was a true super technique of the myriad worlds. Soul attack techniques were extremely rare, and the Heart Origin Sutra was one of the strongest. What was the myriad worlds? The primordial realm and the astral realm were just two of them. There were many other massive worlds similar to these two. Of course, the primordial realm and the astral realm were also among the top existences in the myriad worlds. In fact, when the Emperor Lord of the primordial realm was still around, the primordial realm could even be ranked in the top 10. If the Emperor Lord of the primordial realm had not failed at the final step, perhaps the primordial realm would have had a chance to rush to the top. Jiang Xi shook his head and carefully checked the Heart Origin Sutra he had just obtained. The Thousand Heart Sword Technique, a soul attack technique he had obtained on the 7th level, could be cultivated at the eternal supremacy level of mental state. However, the Heart Origin Sutra could only be cultivated at the Chaos Essence Divine general level of mental state. From this, it could be seen how powerful this soul attack technique was. To be precise, the Thousand Heart Sword Technique was a powerful soul attack technique. It was extremely useful for eternal supremacies and Chaos Essence Divine generals. However, the Heart Origin Sutra was an existence that could drive a Chaos Essence Divine king crazy. Even Chaos Essence Divine rulers of a higher level would fight for it. This was because spiritual attacks were invisible and formless. If one's mental state cultivation was not high enough, they would not be able to resist a mental attack at all. The ultimate technique of the primordial realm's Empyrean Lord is actually hidden on the 8th floor of the Verdant Cloud Brothel. Who is the immortal king in the Dream Origin realm? What's hidden on the 9th floor? Jiang Xi thought to himself. Red. A ray of light descended from the void and enveloped Jiang Xi. His figure disappeared from the 8th level. Reaching the top of the 9th stratum meant that he had succeeded. He would then complete the Elite Dao Lord mission and become the only Elite Dao Lord. Jiang Xi appeared in a quiet square courtyard. There were ancient carvings on the courtyard walls. It was the unique style of the primordial realm civilization. This is the 9th floor of the Verdant Cloud Brothel? There was nothing special about it. But the more it was like this, the more mysterious it seemed. Come in. A voice came from the quiet residence ahead. Jiang Xi's body stiffened. His face was full of shock and disbelief. With his mental state cultivation, it was almost impossible for anything to make him so shocked. Even when he heard the name Yuan, he could quickly regain his composure. But at this moment, this voice made him unable to maintain his composure. His mind was greatly moved. The shock on his face did not subside for a long time, because it was very familiar. What are you waiting for? The voice sounded again. Jiang Xi took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He walked forward along the ancient stone path. Even though each of the ancient stone slabs was engraved with complicated mystic art patterns, he was not in the mood to observe and deduce them. Soon he turned a corner and came to the depths of the square courtyard. It was a courtyard. An unknown ancient tree stood in the corner of the courtyard. There was an exquisite round table and 2 chairs under the tree. One person sat on the chair while the other stood beside him like a guard. Jiang Xi stood at the entrance of the courtyard in a daze. He looked at the 2 people under the tree in a daze. They were indeed humans, not life forms of other races. Even though he had the mental state cultivation of an eternal supreme, he still found it hard to believe. It was like a dream. Dao, Senior Qing Shi? The figure sitting there was wearing a gorgeous palace dress. She seemed to be the most beautiful woman in the world, the focus of everything. The figure standing there was wearing a long green robe. His face was full of vicissitudes. There were knife and sword scars, as if he had experienced many great battles. You're not him. Suddenly, the woman in the palace dress sighed and shook her head. You're not her. Jiang Xi also spoke. At first glance, the woman in the palace dress was indeed no different from Jiang Dudu. But their temperaments were obviously different. Jiang Dudu was more lively and quick-witted, while the woman in the palace dress in front of him gave off a sacred, serious and inviolable feeling. As for the green-robed figure next to her, although he looked the same as Heavenly Venerable Qingshi, Heavenly Venerable Qingshi gave off a barbaric feeling. This green-robed figure, on the other hand, had a fierce murderous aura. Moreover, Zhang Xi felt that this green-robed figure seemed to be the blurry figure he saw at the end of the fourth level's path. Who are you? Zhang Xi took the initiative to ask again. My master is Great Dream Godly Monarch, the founder of the Dream Origin world. The green-robed figure said. And I am Divine General Qingshi. From the looks of it, you have already seen the two faces that look like us. I believe you have many questions, right? Great Dream Godly Monarch said. Zhang Xi took a deep breath and nodded. He did not have the fear he should have when facing godly monarchs and godly generals. He was most familiar with these two faces, so it was naturally impossible for him to feel such reverence. However, he did have questions, deep questions. Jiang Dudu and he had depended on each other since young. Their lives were long intertwined. Although Jiang Dudu had always been in slumber in Heavenly Venerable Qingshi's space, he would visit her nearly every year. As for Heavenly Venerable Qingshi, he was a guide on his cultivation path. He could also be considered one of his masters. Now that there were two people who looked exactly like them, how could he not be puzzled? Do you know of samsara? Great Dream Godly Monarch asked. Among the 8 great Tao Dharma in the primordial realm's chaos sea, there is the samsara Tao Dharma, answered Zhang Xi. But since ancient times, no life form has ever successfully reincarnated. Under the calamity, all non-eternal life forms will be annihilated unless they rely on eternity. That's because the samsara Tao Dharma in the primordial realm's chaos sea was created by me, said Great Dream Godly Monarch calmly. This? Zhang Xi was alarmed. Back then, my godly monarch Bodhimanda was called the Great Dream Bodhimanda. Some experts also called it the Samsara Bodhimanda. And now, the fourth universe in the Chaos Sea is a universe that I opened using the Samsara Tao Dharma, added Great Dream Godly Monarch. You banned the Chaos Sea's Samsara? Pressed Zhang Xi. That's right. Great Dream Godly Monarch nodded. Then why? Zhang Xi glanced at her before looking at Divine General Qingshi. He already had an answer in his heart. Chapter 684. In the courtyard on the 9th floor of Qingyun Brothel, Zhang Xi was puzzled. He wanted to know if the two familiar faces in front of him had really reincarnated. Great Dream God Monarch's gaze was deep. She did not directly answer Zhang Xi's question. Instead, she sighed softly. Due to the appearance of the traitor and the sudden invasion of the astral realm, our primordial realm army was defeated at the end. The danger at the end of the path almost caused the entire army to perish. In the end, it was the Emperor Lord's heart origin power that protected our remnant souls. The content contained in this sentence did not cause any surprise to Riverward. When he first received 8 Clouds' inheritance, 8 Clouds' divine general had mentioned the end of the path. At that time, Zhang Xi was naturally puzzled about what the end of the path was. However, due to the restrictions of Chaos Sea's heaven-earth laws, 8 Clouds' divine general could not tell him. Ever since he entered the Dream Origin realm, he could see the complete 8 Clouds' inheritance without the restrictions of Chaos Sea's heaven-earth laws. From the inheritance, he knew what the end of the path was. To be precise, it was a path of transcendence. Above Chaos Sea there was the Eternal Realm, followed by Chaos Essence Divine General, Godly Monarch and Ruler. For example, 8 Clouds Divine King and Great Dream God Monarch were Chaos Essence Divine Kings. The Emperor Lord of the Primordial Realm and the Lord of the Astral Realm were Chaos Essence Rulers. And to go one level higher, one had to transcend. However, since ancient times, there had only been one path of transcendence. It was obtained by the Emperor Lord of the Primordial Realm. He led the Primordial Realm army and embarked on that path to transcend. He wanted to bring his capable subordinates to transcend together. Unfortunately, due to the betrayal and the sudden attack of the Lord of the Astral Realm, they ultimately failed. At that moment, Heavenly General Bluestone said, "The Emperor Lord exhausted his heart origin and disappeared at the end of the path. The remnant soul of my master, Great Dream God Monarch, brought us deep into the myriad world ruins and opened up the Dream Origin realm there. With that as a foundation, we recuperated and waited for the return of the undead warriors. Then you went to reincarnate? Jiang Xi sighed. The answer was obvious. A Chaos Essence Divine King level expert was incomparably powerful. Even if it was a wisp of remnant spirit, it could still change heaven and earth to be precise. I'm the one who's going to reincarnate. Great Dream God Monarch nodded. After I defined the rules of reincarnation for Mengyuan, the last remnant soul used the Tao of reincarnation to continuously reincarnate in the fourth universe that I created. What about Senior Qing Shi? Jiang Xi looked at Divine General Qing Shi. I haven't reincarnated. The me you see is the real me. Immortal General Qing Shi said. The current me is just an illusory consciousness that I left in Dream Origin Realm. Bluestone has always been in Universe 4, guarding my samsara body. I don't know how many eons he has passed, said Great Dream with a sigh. As for me, I'm now just an illusory consciousness. Jiang Xi was silent. He still had many questions in his heart, but he didn't know where to start. Or rather, he didn't dare to ask. Finally, he asked Great Dream God Monarch, then why do you want to reincarnate? Who am I? In order to find someone in the endless cycles of reincarnation. Emperor Yuan. That's right. The final path contains the ultimate secrets of transcendence. Although we didn't rush to the end back then, we were extremely close. We even bathed in the final transcendence powers. Under such powers, even if we are left with a remnant soul, we won't completely perish. Therefore, when you said that Emperor Yuan exhausted his heart essence and vanished at the final path, he might not have truly vanished. Emperor Yuan obtained the most transcendence powers on the final path. I don't believe that he would vanish. Furthermore, the heart essence power he cultivates in is an existence that is closest to the transcendence powers. It contains great opportunities. Reincarnation is a piece of cake for him. Who am I? Asked Jiang Xi again. Great Dream God Monarch fell silent. After a long while he slowly sighed. From the moment you entered Dream Origin Realm, I sensed a familiar aura. I thought you were him, but unfortunately you aren't. I'm afraid even my samsara body isn't me. Why? Jiang Xi frowned. He was eager to know the relationship between the two. Without transcendence, one can't escape the omnipresent heaven-earth confinement. The samsara Tao art is a law that borders on cheating. It will attract the punishment of the heaven-earth confinement. Therefore I banned samsara back then, said Great Dream God Monarch. Heaven-earth confinement? Jiang Xi realized that this was likely a strengthened version of the Chaos Sea's heaven-earth law. It was even more domineering. And the transcendence path was to escape and break the heaven-earth confinement. Is there a problem with samsara? Asked Jiang Xi. Yes, I can sense that the heaven-earth confinement has wiped away Mayan Emperor Yuan's origins consciousness. Even if the remnant soul's samsara succeeds, it will only be an unconscious essence soul origins undergoing samsara, said Great Dream God Monarch with a sigh. Therefore you can rest assured that you aren't him. The familiar face you saw isn't me either, she added. Jiang Xi heaved a sigh of relief. He was Jiang Xi. Jiang Dudu was Jiang Dudu. The two of them definitely couldn't be anyone else. Then why did the Dream Origin Realm suddenly appear in the Myriad World ruins? Is this the first time it has appeared? Asked Jiang Xi again. It's the first time. Great Dream God Monarch nodded. Then she explained, the Myriad World ruins is the most mysterious and dangerous place in the Myriad Worlds. It is said that it will bury the Myriad Worlds one day. This is not empty talk. The Emperor Yuan has done many things in his life that made experts tremble in fear. One of them was moving the Myriad World ruins into the primordial realm's Chaos Sea. Although it was risky, from then on no world dared to covet the primordial realm. If we had not embarked on the final path, the Lord of the Astral Realm would not have dared to attack the primordial realm. Great Dream God Monarch first explained the origin of the Myriad World ruins. Jiang Xi listened attentively. After we were defeated at the final path, I led the remnant army into the Myriad World ruins to avoid the pursuit of the Lord of the Astral Realm, added Great Dream God Monarch. Then with the Great Dream Dojo as the foundation, I opened up the Dream Origin Realm and let the remnant spirits reincarnate here. The Dream Origin Realm had always been lurking in the Myriad World ruins. However, more than 300,000 years ago, a divine general of the astral realm went deep into the myriad world ruins and broke into this world. Hearing this, Jiangxi's heart skipped a beat. He thought of the previous race war in the fourth universe. At that time, Juntian Sacred Ground, Red Lotus Sacred Ground, and many other races in the fourth universe such as the demon race and ghost race, they joined forces and launched a war to destroy the human race. In the end, they were defeated by him. After that, Heavenly Venerable Qing Shi told him that an expert from the upper realm had come. However, after the war ended, Jiangxi wandered in the Chaos Sea for many years and had never met an expert from the upper realm. He did not expect the other party to go deep into the myriad world ruins and open the dream origin realm. Is that divine general of the astral realm dead? Asked Jiangxi. He knew that there were several divine generals in the dream origin realm. It should be easy to kill a divine general of the astral realm, right? Chapter 685. Great Dream God King seemed to know what Jiangxi was thinking. She shook her head and said, after Dream Origin Sector was created, many remnant spirits reincarnated here. Some of them were Eternal Supremes and Chaos Origin Divine Generals. After a long period of time, they became Eternal Supremes or Chaos Origin Divine Generals again. However, as Dream Origin Sector isn't a Chaos world, it can't support Eternal Universe and Chaos Origin Universe. Therefore, the Eternal Supremes and Chaos Origin Divine Generals in Dream Origin Sector are much weaker than normal. They aren't a match for the Divine General from Star Sector. Jiangxi nodded. It was the same logic as the strong ones in Chaos Ocean Holy Land. At the same level, the celestial venerables of the Holy Land didn't have miniature universes. Their strength was inferior to the celestial venerables of the four original universes. Take a look. Great Dream God King waved her hand. A screen of light appeared in the courtyard, showing a world of gray and misty. Boundless chaotic gray fog was binding a figure like a chain. The figure was struggling but couldn't break free. I used Dream Origin Sector's world origin to suppress him, said Great Dream God King. This person is called Thousand Illusions Divine General. Divine General Qing Shi said. Back when Primordial Sector was at its peak, he crossed two large worlds from Star Sector to Primordial Sector to cultivate. Back then, he was still very weak. I didn't expect his strength to be close to Chaos Origin Divine King. Even I am no match for him. Jiangxi's heart sank. In Chaos Ocean, a Divine General was already crazy enough. Now he was close to Chaos Origin Divine King. Although Chaos Ocean's heaven and earth laws limited one to celestial venerables, as long as the level was different, even if both parties were celestial venerables, the one with the higher level would have a higher chance of winning. Mountain Sea, said Great Dream God King. You can call me Jiangxi. Jiangxi. Great Dream God King nodded. We need you to eliminate him. Dream Origin Sector's world origin can't suppress him for long. Me. Jiangxi was shocked. He wasn't even a celestial venerable. Great Dream God Monarch said with a solemn expression, don't be surprised. You have obtained the Monarch's Heart Origin Sutra. In addition to the things in your mind, you will soon be able to grasp the Monarch's Heart Origin Force. Jiangxi's expression changed. This was the first time someone had seen the EXP panel in his mind. Don't worry, we won't hurt you. Great Dream added, in fact, the thing in your mind might have been obtained by Empyrean Lord at the end of his path. That is why it appeared in your body. Jiangxi was indeed not worried that Great Dream God King would harm him. Because he was a familiar face, it was hard for him to be on guard against Great Dream God King. Are you so sure that after I cultivate Heart Origin energy, I can defeat Illusion Divine General Qian? Riverward took the initiative to ask. The power of heart essence is an existence that is closest to a transcendent power in the myriad worlds. Even the Chaos Sea's worldly laws are unable to restrain it. Just this point alone is enough, said Great Dream with a smile. This is also the reason why the Celestial Emperor chose to conquer the primordial realm's Chaos Sea. In the Chaos Sea, only the Chaos Lord was not restricted by the Chaos Sea. Any other expert could only produce peak heavenly venerate strength. As for the Empyrean Lord's heart origin energy, it can construct a special domain that allows us to produce our original strength. Jiangxi nodded seriously as he listened. He understood the logic behind this. If they encountered a sneak attack on the Chaos Sea's final path, they did not need to worry too much as long as the other party was not a primordial Chaos Lord. Unfortunately, the one who sneak attacked them was the Lord of the Astral Realm, an existence at the primordial Chaos Lord level. If your heart origin energy can be cultivated to the Eternal Realm, I will release Illusion Divine General Qian back into the Chaos Sea. Then you can use your heart origin energy to destroy him, added Great Dream. Upon hearing this, Jiang Xi already understood Great Dream God King's plan. The Chaos Sea only allowed peak heavenly venerate combat strength, but heart origin energy was not restricted by this. When the time came, Illusion Divine General Qian, who could only produce peak heavenly venerate strength, would not be his match. Of course, the premise was that he had to cultivate his heart origin energy to the Eternal Realm. I need a lot of eternal fragments. Jiang Xi was very straightforward. He knew that the Dream Origin Realm did not lack these. Great Dream God King laughed. Is this enough? She waved her hand again as the courtyard space on the 9th floor of Azure Cloud Brothel transformed into a void. There were countless shards of eternity piled up in piles. Each pile was like a star, lighting up the entire void. Although Jiang Xi was mentally prepared, he still felt stifled. How many were there? Back then, Empyrean Lord collected hundreds of millions of eternal fragments from the various worlds. They are all here, said Great Dream God King with a smile. At that moment, Jiang Xi wanted to ask what relationship Great Dream God King had with Empyrean Lord for him to hand over all his wealth to her. After some thought, he decided to ask the question. Great Dream God King smiled without a word. Beside her, Divine General Qing Shi answered on her behalf. Empyrean Lord is my lord's husband. Jiang Xi nodded with a smile. It was no wonder. It was just like how he had handed his savings to Zhang Daodu in the past. From the looks of it, you and her are the same. Great Dream God King laughed as well. We have depended on each other since we were young. Our lives are connected. Jiang Xi had a serious expression. Great Dream God King revealed a look of reminiscence. Moments later, she said with a sigh, protect her well. She is the key to reopening the final path. The final path lies with Daodu? Jiang Xi was alarmed. No. Great Dream God King shook her head. Universe 4's Mountain Sea Star is the final path. Riverward was suddenly enlightened, and the many doubts in his heart were all answered. It was no wonder that when he first met Qing Shi, he heard Qing Shi mention that Earth used to be called Mountain Sea Star. Every calamity in Chaos Sea will destroy everything, but Mountain Sea Star will not be destroyed, said Great Dream God King. Jiang Xi nodded. It would be strange if it could be destroyed. After we were defeated at the final path, that path transformed into a primitive planet. I placed it in my godly monarch universe, which is Chaos Sea's Universe 4, said Great Dream God King. One day in the future, when you feel that you have the strength to step on the final path, you can open it. And the key to open it is with her. Jiang Xi kept these words in mind. At that moment, Great Dream God King added, all right, I have told you everything that needs to be told. Put away these eternal fragments and you may leave. In addition, I will give you the authority to control the Dream Origin World's world origins. Great Dream God King added, on the surface, your status is equivalent to the generals of the 4 armies, but in fact, your status is higher. You can use the world origins to easily suppress them. The 4 generals also know this. They will respect you. Upon hearing this, Jiang Xi immediately laughed. He never expected to become the person with the highest authority in the Dream Origin world after completing an elite sequence mission. Although Great Dream God King was sitting in front of him and Divine General Qing Shi was standing beside him, they were illusory existences. However, these two were illusory consciousnesses and did not have much strength. They might not even be able to leave the verdant cloud brothel. Chapter 686. The moment Jiang Xi left the verdant cloud brothel. In the Grey Palace, the 4 commanders were extremely excited. It's gone. The elite mission has disappeared. This means that Shanghai has reached the top of the verdant cloud brothel. The 4 commanders laughed loudly. Swoosh. The four of them arrived at the Verdant Cloud brothel at the same time and saw Jiang Xi walking out. "We're the four commanders of the Godly King Valley. We're under the orders of His Majesty the Godly King to protect the Godly King Valley." The Chaos Origin Divine General Level Blood Armor Commander smiled and said, "Shanhai, congratulations on reaching the top of the Verdant Cloud brothel and becoming the first elite Dao Lord in the history of the Dream Origin realm. Shanhai, please come to the hall to talk," said the Black Mist Commander. Their tones were filled with respect. This was especially true for the three Eternal Supreme Commanders. From their body movements, one could tell that they were very respectful to Jiang Xi. Clearly, the four commanders also knew that Jiang Xi's current identity was very different. Although he was still a Dao Lord warrior, he could suppress them with a flip of his hand because he controlled the world's origin. Half a day later, Jiang Xi left the Godly King Valley under the warm escort of the four commanders. Looking at the vast Godly King continent and the endless ocean, Jiang Xi smiled. "It took me a year to come here, but it only took me an instant now." He did not need to hide anymore. With a thought, he disappeared from the sky above the Godly King continent. In the next moment he appeared outside the White Flame Army's camp. He controlled the Dream Origin realm's origin, so he could naturally go anywhere at will. He could even kill living beings below the Eternal Supremes with a thought. He could easily suppress Eternal Supremes and Chaos Origin Divine Generals. This was also the reason why the four commanders were so respectful to him earlier. In the White Flame Army's camp, the Great Yin Army's lake. Jiang Xi flew leisurely above the lake and flew toward his island. "Look, it's Shanhai. He's Shanhai. I heard that the captain of your third squad is also afraid of this recruit. I remember that he disappeared for 300,000 years. I thought he was dead. I didn't expect him to still be alive." On an island below, two warriors saw Jiang Xi's figure. The news of the Mountain Sea warriors returning to the Great Yin Legion's 4th Brigade's 3rd Squad spread like wildfire. Soon the news spread throughout the entire 4th Battalion. A red-faced, 8-armed warrior of the 6th Squad widened his eyes when he heard the news. "He's back." The 8 arms naturally belonged to the Dao Lord experts of the Great Heaven Holy Land of the Primordial Sea. His strength was not bad. After so many years of experience, he had also joined the Special Forces. "Are we going to activate the killing trap?" The 8-armed warrior was silent, feeling a formless pressure. At the same time, there was resentment in his heart. He had been in the Dream Origin realm for 300,000 years, and had long fallen in love with this place. This place was much freer than the Great Sky Holy Land. He could even find a way to become an Empyrean here, a way to cultivate eternity, and not rely on primogeniture Great Sky Supreme. But he shouldered Juntian Supreme's orders and must deal with Jiang Xi. "Let's begin." The 8-armed warrior sighed. His true body was still in the Great Sky Holy Land. His life and death were under the control of the Sovereign. He could only obey orders. Soon enough, the 8-armed warrior flew toward the Great Yin Army's core encampment. This was a vast island, covered with fiery red forests. In the middle of the forest there was a towering temple. There were teams of heavenly venerable guards at the entrance. The person who lived in this temple was the Great Yin Army's commander. Those who could serve as the commander of the special forces in the army were all Eternal Supremes. Moreover, they were relatively strong Eternal Supremes. Even if they were not Eternal Supremes, their strength was not much different. "Stop! This is the commander's residence. Trespassing is prohibited." The heavenly venerable guards in front of the temple stopped the 8-armed warrior. "I have something important to discuss with the commander," the 8-armed warrior hurriedly said. "Warrior!" A heavenly venerable guard shouted coldly. "Do you think you can see the commander just because you want to? Leave quickly." "I really have something important to discuss with the commander," the 8-armed warrior said anxiously. The heavenly venerable guards exchanged glances and hesitated slightly. After all, the person who came to seek an audience was a warrior of the Great Yin Army. "Let him in." A cold voice rang out. The heavenly venerable guards no longer stopped him. The 8-armed warrior heaved a sigh of relief. Inside the temple, a wicked-looking young man dressed in a fiery red robe sat high up in the great hall. "Greetings, Commander." The 8-armed warrior saluted respectfully. "What's so important to you?" The great Yin commander's sinister gaze fell on the 8-armed warrior. If you can't tell me what's so important to you, I'll punish you according to military law. Commander, I accidentally discovered a great secret, the 8-armed warrior said hurriedly. The warriors of the 4th Platoon's 3rd Platoon, the Mountain Sea Warriors, infiltrated from an outside force. An outside force? The great Yin commander's killing intent surged. Every living being in the Dream Origin realm was absolutely loyal to the Dream Origin realm and hostile to the outside world. This was engraved in the depths of their souls. You're not lying to me? The great Yin commander asked. I wouldn't dare to lie to you, Commander. Do you have proof? The 8-armed warrior was anxious. I saw it with my own eyes. The proof? You think I'm going to investigate that mountain sea just because you mentioned it? The great Yin commander sneered. Stand down and I'll forgive you this time. The 8-armed warrior gritted his teeth and said with a crazed expression, Commander, I'm certain that I saw it with my own eyes. If you summon Mountain Sea and cast an illusion spell, we'll know if it's true or not. Illusion spell? The great Yin commander was impatient. It's not up to you to tell me what to do. Scram. Commander, I'm telling the truth. If we let him live, it'll be detrimental to the Dream Origin realm. The 8-armed warrior was slightly hysterical. If you don't believe me, Commander, I'm willing to prove it with my death. Boom! The 8-armed warrior self-detonated in the temple. His body and nascent divinity were destroyed. This scene shocked Great Yan's commander's self-detonation. He's willing to die to prove his loyalty? I didn't expect this warrior to be so loyal. What a pity. He had seen many loyal warriors throughout his long life. However, this was the first time he had seen someone willing to die to prove his loyalty. Is it true that an outsider has infiltrated the Dream Origin realm? The great Yin commander's sinister eyes gleamed. Swoosh! Then he vanished into thin air. In the next moment he appeared in the air above Jiangxi's island. At this moment, Jiangxi was fishing leisurely by the water. How leisurely? The great Yin commander sneered. You're here? Come on down. Suddenly, a soft voice rang in his ears. HM? The great Yin commander was shocked. Boom! Immediately after, a force from all directions pressed down on him, causing him to fall rapidly downwards, smashing directly into the water. However, the water was extremely hard. The great Yin commander was disoriented from the fall. This shocked him. He was an eternal paragon. His body and nascent divinity were extremely powerful. How could he be suppressed with a wave of a hand? Moreover, he was like an ordinary being. He could not resist at all. Is this person really an outsider? The great Yin commander hastily sent a message to the White Flame General. Before I could pay you a visit, I heard that my subordinate had offended you, Bai Yin said with a smile. I think you should announce your identity as an elite. As an elite, nobody would dare to disrespect you. There's no need. Zhang Xi shook his head. He did not want the whole world to know about his identity. With his current strength, he was invincible in the Dream Origin realm and Chaos Sea. However, he had not dealt with the 1,000 Transformations Divine General. If his identity was made public, the experts from Chaos Sea would definitely know about his existence. The eternal paragons of the 2 holy lands in Chaos Sea might have a way to contact the 1,000 Transformations Divine General. If the other party was on guard, it might cause unnecessary trouble. How do you plan to deal with him? Bai Yin looked at the great Yin commander on the ground in the distance. To the Dream Origin realm, even if they were a remnant army of the Dream Origin realm's great army, an eternal paragon was nothing. If Zhang Xi wanted to kill, nobody could stop him. Ask him why he wants to kill me first, Zhang Xi said. All right. Bai Yin nodded and immediately sent a voice transmission to the great Yin commander. A moment later, Bai Yin said to Zhang Xi, it's an 8-armed Daolord warrior from the great Yin army. He said you're an outsider and used your death to prove your sincerity. That's why Great Yin is suspicious of you and wants to kill you. The White Flame Guard did not suspect Zhang Xi at all. He knew this warrior, Shanhai, had been identified by the Verdant Cloud Brothel. The Verdant Cloud Brothel was left behind by His Majesty, the godly king. If Shanhai was a spy, he would not have left the Verdant Cloud Brothel alive. An 8-armed Tao Lord? A hint of killing intent flashed past Jiang Xi's eyes. The Great Sky Holy Land was dominated by the Great Sky Clan. The Tao Lords of this clan had 8 arms. Since you want to kill me, I'll kill all your experts in the Dream Origin realm. After that, Jiang Xi did not make things difficult for the Great Yin Commander. After a round of punishment, he let Bai Yan lead the Great Yin Commander away. Half a day later, when no one was paying attention to him on the island, with just a thought, Jiang Xi arrived at the Great Yin Army's quartermaster hall. As soon as he entered the hall, the world around him changed. He had arrived in an extremely realistic world. Whoosh! A golden figure appeared and bowed respectfully at Jiang Xi. Greetings, Lord Shanhai. Jiang Xi nodded. He looked around him. There was not a single warrior around. He must have entered an independent space. I want information on all the Tao Lords and Celestial Venerables who joined the 4 great armies in the past 350,000 years. He said to the golden figure, also, can you simulate their auras? Yes. Their life auras are the key to confirming their identities. I have records here, the golden figure said. Instantly. Whoosh! Whoosh! There was a vast number of them. That's a lot. Jiang Xi shook his head. Fortunately, it was only 300,000 years. If it was an epoch, it would be troublesome to find them. Begin the search. With his strength, it only took him a moment to filter out the information. There are 238 Tao Lords and 1 Celestial Venerate from the Great Sky Holy Land who joined the 4 great armies. Killing them is easy. Jiang Xi thought to himself. He controlled the world source of the Dream Origin realm. He could annihilate all the Great Sky Holy Land experts with a single thought. Moreover, he would annihilate both the main body and the avatar. There was no room for resistance. Jiang Xi thought of something. Universe 4 Human Territory. Master. Jiang Xi's avatar entered the ancient Tao origin world and found Heavenly Venerate 9 Firmament. He told him what he wanted to do. What? Heavenly Venerate 9 Firmament was shocked. You said that you have the authority to kill all the Great Sky Holy Land experts in the Dream Origin realm? Yes. Jiang Xi nodded. He did not reveal his experience in the Dream Origin realm, and Heavenly Venerate 9 Firmament did not ask. My plan is not only to kill the powerhouses of the Great Sky Holy Land, but also the powerhouses of the 4th universe who are against our human race. Riverward said again. Hundreds of thousands of years had passed. The human race had occupied more than 90% of the territory in Universe 4. However, many Tao Lords and Heavenly Venerates who were against the human race had fled to Chaos Sea. It was still very difficult to kill them all. Leaving these experts alive was ultimately a hidden danger. I want Master to do something. Jiang Xi told him what he had in mind. You mean? Heavenly Venerate 9 Firmament immediately understood. Haha, great. He laughed. I understand what you mean. You want me to spread the news outside and attract more experts to enter the Dream Origin realm. After they join the army, you can kill them all in one fell swoop? Yes. Jiang Xi nodded. Leave it to me. Heavenly Venerate 9 Firmament laughed. His eyes were filled with madness and anticipation. Annihilating all the enemies of the human race in one fell swoop. Just thinking about it made him excited. Soon the news spread in Chaos Sea. Some Tao Lords had obtained eternal-level inheritances in the Dream Origin Realm's army. Moreover, the Dream Origin Realm's army seemed to be expanding. The selection criteria were much lower than before. When the news spread, the experts of the various factions in Chaos Sea were naturally skeptical. However, when they tried to join the army in the Dream Origin Realm, they realized that it was indeed simple. For example, the Heavenly Feather race of the first universe had 10 Tao Lords. It was already good enough for 3 or 4 of them to join the army. Now 8 or even 9 of them could join the army. Therefore, the various factions in Chaos Sea went crazy. With eternal-level inheritances in the army, the selection criteria for joining the army were also lowered. What were they waiting for? Under such an atmosphere, more and more experts from Chaos Sea joined the army. Moreover, they did see eternal-level inheritances. Some of them exchanged for some information about the inheritances. Under the stimulation of many aspects, more than 5,000 experts from Chaos Sea joined the four armies in the Dream Origin realm in just 10,000 years. Jiang Xi was waiting silently. Of course, he was the one who controlled all of this. With his status in the Dream Origin realm, it was easy for him to lower the selection criteria for joining the army. Moreover, it was only for a short period of time. The four generals had no reason to reject it. The small amount of eternal-level inheritances was also taken out by him. It looked tempting, but it was only tempting. Soon. According to his statistics, there were only about 10,000 Tao Lords in Chaos Sea's 4 primal universes and 2 Holy Land universes. Most of them had no enmity with the human race and were not within his killing range. His current targets were the Juntian Holy Land and the Heavenly Feather race of the first universe, as well as the Demon race and Ghost race of the fourth universe. Jiang Xi had never forgotten about the Heavenly Feather race. This race was an eternal race. Its bloodline was inherited from the Heavenly Feather Divine General of the Primordial Realm. It was this Heavenly Feather Divine General's betrayal that gave the Astral Realm the chance to launch a sneak attack on the Primordial Realm's army. Therefore, this race was also within Jiang Xi's killing range. In the future, if there was a chance, he would completely destroy this eternal race's bloodline. Just like that, another 10,000 years passed. Almost 8,000 experts from various factions in Chaos Sea had entered the Dream Origin realm. More than 70% of the experts who went against the human race had entered the Dream Origin realm and joined the army. That's enough. Jiang Xi's eyes were cold. It was definitely unrealistic to kill all of them. These factions would not send all of their experts to the Dream Origin realm. If 70% of them were killed, the remaining 30% would be no threat at all. Then die. With a thought, Jiang Xi merged with the world origin of the entire Dream Origin realm. At this moment, several Chaos Origin Divine Generals in the Dream Origin realm sensed something. They looked in the direction of Jiang Xi but did not come over to ask. In their opinion, as long as Lord Mountain Sea did not destroy the entire world with a thought, they did not need to care. Die. Jiang Xi used the world origin to lock onto the life aura that he had selected. He sensed that most of the experts he was about to kill were Tao Lords and a few were celestial venerables. Whoosh, without a sound, wisps of the world's source energy invaded the bodies and primordial spirits of those experts, killing them all. Moreover, it did not only kill the bodies. That mysterious power also killed all the bodies and clones of these experts through the connection between the main body and the clones. Great Sky Sacred Ground. Who is it? Who is it? Great Sky Supreme was going crazy. Great Sky Sacred Ground had more than 500 Tao Lords. Almost 400 of them had died in an instant. Even if they had many quasi-Tao Lords, they could replenish them. However, to replenish nearly 400 Tao Lords at once and cultivate to an extremely high realm, that kind of consumption Great Sky Sacred Ground would not be able to recover to its peak state even after 10 Aeon eras. First Universe Heavenly Feather Race. No. Who is it? The only remaining Heavenly Venerables of the Heavenly Feather Race, the 7th Sacred Lord, was stunned and then despaired. In order to obtain the eternal inheritance in the Dream Origin realm, they had mobilized all their forces. Only he, a Heavenly Venerate, and 10 other Tao Lords were left. The rest had all entered the Dream Origin realm. However, in an instant all the experts who had entered the Dream Origin realm had died. The 7th Sacred Lord knew that the Heavenly Feather race was finished. At the same time, the experts of the Demon race and Ghost race in the 4th universe who had escaped into the Chaos Sea were also in despair. Especially the Demon race and Ghost race. Their Heavenly Venerate Myriad Demon and Heavenly Venerate Yendu had also entered the Dream Origin realm and died just now. From now on, the Alliance army would no longer be a threat to the human race. Compared to these despairing races at this moment, the human race in the 4th universe was jubilant. Finally, the 4th universe ushered in the human race's era. They occupied the entire universe. With such a huge territory, they would give birth to more and more top geniuses, more Tao Lords, and more Heavenly Venerables in the future. At the same time, under the spread of the human race's upper echelons, Jiang Xi's name was once again known by everyone. This was because he was the creator of the human race's peak era. He was the undisputed number one expert of the human race. Chapter 688. Jiang Xi's original body was still cultivating in the dream origin realm. With the eternal fragments given by great dream god king, he no longer had to worry about the lack of experience points. Now, he only needed to use the interface to improve his body, essence spirit, Tao art, and heart essence. Once his heart essence reached the eternal realm, he could deal with illusion immortal General Qian, the only existence that could threaten him in the Chaos Sea. Time passed. 1,000,000 years after Jiang Xi entered the dream origin realm, Jiang Xi's other master, Immortal Liquor Sword, finally became a Tao Lord. For this, Jiang Xi's avatar came out of seclusion to celebrate for his master. Another era passed. Jiang Xi's elder brother, Xian Tian, also became a Tao Lord, becoming the second Tao Lord on Earth. After another 10,000,000 years, his second sister, Li Baibai, also became a Tao Lord, becoming the third Tao Lord on Earth. Their breakthroughs seemed to have opened the seal of the experts on Earth. Perfected lords and Tao Lords appeared one after another. In the next 10 eras, the 4th, 5th, and 6th Tao Lords appeared, until there were more than 10 Tao Lords, and it did not end. As a result, the Earth lineage became the strongest lineage of the human race. During this process, Jiang Xi did not go to Immortal General Qingshi to release Jiang Dudu's sleeping seal, because he already knew that illusion immortal General Qian was coming for the Mountain Sea Star. To be precise, he was coming for the Transcendence Path. According to Great Dream God King, Jiang Dudu was the key to opening the Transcendence Path. Once she woke up, she would attract the attention of illusion immortal General Qian. Even if illusion immortal General Qian was suppressed by the dream origin realm, this expert who was close to the immortal king level might still have an avatar in the upper realm. If illusion immortal General Qian used this opportunity to pass the news to other experts in the astral realm, it would definitely attract more immortal generals, or even immortal kings. Even with the Chaos Seas domineering heaven-earth law restriction, Jiang Xi was not confident that he could deal with the immortal king. Chaos Essence Immortal King was on another level. Even in the larger universe, he was a peak existence. It was not something that could be completely restricted by the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, Jiang Xi wouldn't open Jiang Dudu's sleeping seal unless he dealt with the illusion divine general. It had been 360 million years since Jiang Xi entered the dream origin realm in the 10th epoch. In the dream origin realm, on a forbidden island in the Great Yin Army's lake camp. It was indeed a forbidden island, because the island Jiang Xi lived on had already been listed as a forbidden area. In the past 300 million years, not a single warrior had dared to set foot on it. As for Jiang Xi, he had been in closed-door cultivation for 10 eras. On this day, Jiang Xi finally woke up. He opened his eyes, which flashed with an incomparably ancient aura. Phew, I finally succeeded. Cultivation base me Eternal Supreme 1000000/1000000. Doppelganger Eternal Supreme 1000000/1000000. Tao Techniques Eternal Sword Tao 1000000/1000000. Eternal Saber Tao 1000000/1000000. Eternal Five Elements 1000000/1000000. Eternal Life 1000000/1000000. Eternal Space 1000000/1000000. Eternal Time 0000000/1000000. Eternal Destruction 1000000/1000000. Eternal Reincarnation 1000000/1000000. Secret Techniques Mountain and Sea Scripture Eternal Scroll 1000000/1000000. Heart Origin Scripture Tier 1 1000000/1000000, 8 lives Tier 4, 1000000/1000000, Cloud Annihilation Tier 4, 1000000/1000000, Deduction, 1 Eternal Experience Points Conversion. 1 Eternal Shard equals 1 Eternal Experience Points. Eternal Experience Points. 84. 34 million. Everything will reach the limits of eternity. Riverward's heart surged with confidence after 360 million years. He had finally raised his heart origin, Tao techniques, body, and nascent divinity to the perfected eternal realm. His cultivation base had also reached the perfected eternal realm, surpassing the eternal Grand Supreme. With my strength, I'm confident that I can fight the 4 great generals and the other Chaos Origin divine generals in the Dream Origin realm, even without using the world's origin. Because he had reached the limit of all 4 paths, the power of Heart Origin was invisible and formless. No supreme treasure could defend against it. Even if the Chaos Origin divine generals could resist it, their strength would be greatly weakened by the power of Heart Origin. Tao techniques. He had now reached the eternal limit of all 8 Tao techniques. The next step was to create his own Tao technique and step into the Chaos Origin realm. Moreover, he had achieved the fusion of 8 Tao techniques and created the Mountain and Sea Scripture, the advanced version of the Mountain and Sea Sword Scripture. This secret technique could be called a unique skill of the Chaos Origin realm. It was all-encompassing and interpreted all the mysteries of the 8 Tao techniques. In terms of physical strength, he had raised the 8 lives of the 8 Clouds legacy to the perfected 4th level. His physical strength was comparable to an eternal treasure, not to mention his strength. Riverward was confident that he could seriously injure an eternal realm great supremacy with a single punch with just his physical strength. The power of nascent divinity was also the cloud annihilation of the 8 Clouds legacy. After reaching the perfected 4th level, the strength of his nascent divinity had reached the limit of the eternal realm. Once he used his nascent divinity, it would be 1,000 times more powerful. Even a divine general might not be able to compare to the strength of his nascent divinity. Now, the most important thing is the power of heart essence. Jiang Xi's eyes sparkled. The power of heart essence was close to the ultimate transcendent power. The Chaos Sea's heaven-earth laws could not restrict it. With this power, he could unleash the strength of the perfected eternal realm in the Chaos Sea. He could suppress all enemies with a wave of his hand. Even if a godly monarch from the astral realm came, he would not be afraid. This was because godly monarchs were limited by the Chaos Sea's heaven-earth laws to a large extent. They were unable to unleash their true strength. Then we can begin. Jiang Xi looked in the direction of the godly monarch continent. With a thought, he appeared on the 9th floor of the Azure Cloud Brothel in the Godly Monarch Valley. Great Dream Godly Monarch, who looked like Zhang Daodu, was still sitting in the courtyard space on the 9th floor as though he had never changed. As for Divine General Qing Shi's illusory consciousness, he stood motionless beside him. "Are you ready?" Great Dream Godly Monarch asked with a smile. "I can take action at any time," said Jiang Xi confidently. Beside him, Divine General Qing Shi laughed. "It seems like there's no need for me to take action. Senior Qing Shi, just help me protect Daodu," said Jiang Xi. "Don't worry. In the independent space of my main body, even if 1,000 illusion godly general's strength is close to that of a godly monarch, he won't be able to discover Daodu," said Divine General Qing Shi. "Then let's begin." Jiang Xi nodded. The 3 of them were not the type to procrastinate. Great Dream Godly Monarch waved his hand. "Who?" Jiang Xi disappeared from Dream Origin Sector. The next moment, he appeared in the endless gray fog in the primordial realm's Chaos Sea. At the same time, 1,000 Illusion Godly General, who was suppressed in the origin space of Dream Origin Sector, was expelled. In the endless Chaos Sea, the 4 original universes were like 4 continents floating in the endless gray fog. There were specks of celestial venerate miniature universes all around. Among them, there were 2 Holy Land universes that were much larger in size. They were like islands and similarly emitted powerful auras. In this huge world, there were 3 places that were obviously larger. They were the 3 lands of Extremis: Gold Flow River, Abyss of Pitting Space, and Myriad Worlds Ruins. At this moment, at the edge of Myriad Worlds Ruins, which was covered by wind and fire energy, many flying true treasures could be seen scattered everywhere. Although a large number of great beings had died in Dream Origin Sector 10 years ago, those who survived had obtained great fortune. However, those who had survived had indeed obtained many fortuitous encounters. Many Dowlors had even become Empyrean experts because of this. Therefore, there were still many forces that sent experts to guard this place. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the periphery of Myriad Worlds Ruins. That is Mountain Sea Dow Lord. He disappeared for hundreds of millions of years. Why did he suddenly appear? Hurry up and stay away. He is now the top master in Chaos Sea. Nobody can do anything to him. Those great beings quickly retreated and passed the message to their races, telling them not to get close to Myriad Worlds Ruins for the time being. On the other hand, Riverward waited quietly outside the Wuxia ruins and did not go anywhere. In the next moment, another figure appeared. It was a handsome young man in silver armor with a long spear in his hand. It was Illusion Immortal General Qian. Haha, a bunch of dead remnant spirits want to suppress me? Illusion Immortal General Qian laughed as if there was no one around. I have escaped. From now on, no great being in this ruined primordial realm Chaos Sea can stop me. The many opportunities buried here will eventually belong to me. Illusion Immortal General Qian. Perhaps in the future, I can use this to enter the Divine King realm and become Illusion Immortal King. He looked around and finally fixed his eyes on Zhang Xi. That was because Zhang Xi was the only one left in the vicinity. Why aren't you afraid of me? Illusion Immortal General Qian said proudly. Why should I be afraid of you? Zhang Xi smiled. Oh, seems like you are quite capable. Illusion Immortal General Qian stared at Zhang Xi. Soon he frowned as he realized that Zhang Xi's cultivation was a little strange. He was a celestial venerate, but he looked like an eternal supreme. On second look, he looked like a Chaos Origin Immortal General. It was really strange. Let me ask you, do you know of the Mountain Sea Star? Illusion Immortal General Qian suddenly asked. He still did not take Zhang Xi seriously. He asked this because he felt that Zhang Xi should have some background and might know some secrets. Mountain Sea Star? Zhang Xi laughed. My name is Zhang Xi, also known as Mountain Sea. Do you think I don't know? You. Illusion Immortal General Qian was stunned and could no longer remain calm. Then, his eyes released a fierce glint as he said coldly, a weak creature from the lower realm dares to toy with me? I'll capture you first. Whoosh! He directly raised his hand, and the endless chaotic gray fog in the surroundings seemed to listen to his command, condensing into an incomparably huge palm print, pressing down on Zhang Xi. The chaos fog, also known as chaos energy, could only be controlled by Chaos Origin experts. Although Illusion Immortal General Qian was limited by the Chaos Sea's Heaven-Earth law, and could only exert the strength of a heavenly venerate, he could still control chaos energy, but the next moment, he was shocked. Zhang Xi did not move at all. He only said softly, disperse. It was unknown what kind of power spread out and directly defeated the chaos palm that seemed to be able to annihilate everything. Impossible. Illusion Immortal General Qian was shocked. In the Chaos Sea, to be able to display such strength, it could only be a Chaos Essence Divine King level powerhouse. Nothing is impossible, Riverward said with a smile. Seal. He said softly again. Heart Origin Force spread out again. The invisible force was like a huge net that enveloped Illusion Immortal General Qian. Not good. Illusion Immortal General Qian could not sense the Heart Origin Force, but he could feel an invisible danger rapidly approaching. Retreat, retreat, retreat. He hurriedly retreated. What kind of power is this? It's not a Tao technique, not a body, not a primordial spirit. What is it? Illusion Immortal General Qian thought as he retreated. However, he had never seen this power before and could not think of an answer for a while. Can you escape? Zhang Xi did not move. Wherever his heart was, it was within his attack range. Seal. He spoke again. The invisible heart origin force immediately increased explosively, reaching the eternal perfection level. Whoosh! In an instant, an invisible net directly bound illusion immortal General Qian, firmly imprisoning him. His body and primordial spirit were all imprisoned, unable to move. This is impossible. Illusion immortal General Qian's face was filled with disbelief and fear. Who are you? Are you a remnant of the primordial realm? Impossible. The primordial realm army has already turned into remnant spirits. It's impossible for there to be any alive. Zhang Xi took a light step forward and walked in front of him. He smiled and said, "You'll know in a while." Heart slave technique. As he spoke, he used the enslavement technique in the Heart Origin Sutra. Immediately, the invisible net formed by the Heart Origin force began to penetrate deep into illusion immortal General Qian's body and primordial spirit. It was like a brand that completely controlled illusion immortal General Qian's body, primordial spirit, and mind. No. Illusion immortal General Qian wanted to self-destruct and abandon this body. But under the control of the Heart Origin force, he could not do so at all. He struggled frantically, trying to resist this invisible force with his Chaos Origin Divine General Level mental state cultivation. He suddenly realized something. This is that person's power Heart Origin force. It's Heart Origin force. Illusion immortal General Qian finally remembered an extremely ancient legend. It was a power unique to the super-existence called Yuan during the primordial realm's heyday. Yuan had used this to sweep through almost all the super powerhouses in the myriad worlds. But at this time, it was useless for illusion immortal General Qian to remember because he had no means of resisting. At most, he could unleash the strength of a peak heavenly venerable. The invisible brand finally penetrated deep into illusion immortal General Qian's mental state world, eroding his mind. He closed his eyes, and the last trace of despair and struggle in his eyes finally disappeared. When illusion immortal General Qian opened his eyes again and looked at Zhang Xi, only fanaticism and respect were left in his eyes. Thousand Illusion greets Master. Heart Slave Technique. From now on, illusion immortal General Qian was Zhang Xi's heart slave. Before cultivating the Heart Origin Sutra, Zhang Xi had indeed planned to directly kill illusion immortal General Qian. But when he learned that there was such a heart slave technique in the Heart Origin Sutra, he changed his mind and tried to control illusion immortal General Qian, because he would definitely go to the upper realm in the future. If illusion immortal General Qian was there, it would naturally be much more convenient. Now that he controlled illusion immortal General Qian, Zhang Xi also knew that this existence close to the godly monarch level had indeed left an avatar in the astral realm. This way, it was equivalent to him burying a nail in the astral realm that would definitely be of great use in the future. After all, there were not many powerhouses like illusion immortal General Qian even in the upper realm. From now on, Zhang Xi was invincible in the primordial realm's chaos sea. And he did not stop. He directly took a step forward, crossing countless light years and arriving outside the Juntian sacred ground. A new sacred ground universe will be established in the chaos sea. There's no need for the Juntian sacred ground to exist. Whoosh! The invisible heart origin force attached to his fist, coupled with the physical strength of an eternal cardinal treasure. This punch immediately exceeded the limits of the chaos sea. Endless chaotic energy crazily surged towards Zhang Xi and condensed on his fist. Finally, when this punch was completely condensed, it seemed to be able to destroy everything. Then, the punch smashed towards the huge Juntian Sacred Ground universe. Juntian Sacred Ground, inside a shrine in the giant hammer divine world. Ever since the Dream Origin realm appeared, Juntian Supreme's blurry figure had never disappeared. At this moment he suddenly felt his heart palpitate. What happened? The next moment Juntian Supreme opened his eyes in shock. The fog that covered his figure also disappeared, revealing a figure similar to a human. Boom! Crash! Rumble! All kinds of loud noises reverberated throughout the entire Juntian Sacred Ground universe. The sky collapsed and the ground caved in. Terrifying cracks appeared in the void. Lightning, thunder, gray fog, flames and all kinds of energy spiraled between heaven and earth. Juntian Sacred Ground universe was collapsing. Those pieces of space fragments formed turbulence and began to impact the entire universe. Those living beings that relied on the Juntian sacred ground, no matter where they were, died silently along with the destruction of the universe. Who is it? Who is it? Juntian Supreme roared angrily, his anger reaching the extreme. His main body had already gone to the upper realm. This was only an illusory consciousness that he had left behind. He didn't have any strength. At most, he could control the origin of the eternal universe and intimidate the experts of the sacred ground. Therefore, right now, he could only watch helplessly as his universe collapsed. He was powerless to do anything. What made Juntian Supreme feel the most despair was that now that his eternal universe was destroyed, his strength in the upper realm would plummet. Strength represented status. His status in the star origin realm would also be greatly reduced. Those enemies that he had made over the years would definitely come to kill him. In other words, he was finished. Who is it that cut off my Juntian's retreat? Juntian Supreme stood in the sacred ground universe that was gradually turning into ruins and roared. He didn't even see the enemy's figure. Finally, when the origin of the universe was about to collapse, Juntian Supreme saw the figure standing outside the Juntian sacred ground. Jiangxi, Mountain Sea Dao Lord. You deserve to die. Juntian Supreme was unable to restrain his anger. Goodbye. Jiangxi punched out again. The Juntian sacred ground that was about to turn into ruins completely turned into fragments of various sizes and scattered in the endless chaotic gray fog. Juntian sacred ground destroyed. Soon the entire Chaos Sea was shocked. The Juntian sacred ground that had stood in the Chaos Sea for countless years, the number one force in the Chaos Sea, was suddenly destroyed. No one knew that someone had smashed the Juntian sacred ground with a punch. But then, another thing that shocked the major forces in the Chaos Sea happened. At the edge of the fourth universe, a miniature universe was rapidly expanding. 1 trillion light-years, 2 trillion light-years, 3 trillion light-years, 10 trillion light-years, 20 trillion light-years, 30 trillion light-years. 30 trillion had already surpassed the Red Lotus sacred ground universe. However, the expansion process of this sacred ground universe wasn't over yet. 40 trillion, 50 trillion. It had surpassed the original Juntian sacred ground. 60 trillion, 70 trillion. Until 1 trillion light-years. This was the limit that the eternal sacred ground universe could reach. A new sacred ground universe appeared in the Chaos Sea. Since it appeared at the edge of the fourth universe, it was obvious that this was a sacred ground universe belonging to the human race. It was called the Mountain Sea Sacred Ground. However, it wasn't over yet. At the edge of the fourth universe, another miniature universe began to expand. It was expanding as quickly as the Mountain Ocean Sacred Ground. Soon it reached 40 trillion light-years, surpassing the Red Lotus Sacred Ground. And the name of this Sacred Ground universe was Purple Firmament Sacred Ground. It was Heavenly Venerable Purple Firmament, or rather, Supreme Purple Firmament's Sacred Ground Universe. Fourth Universe Human Territory Tao Alliance Heavenly Court. The upper echelons of the human race were gathered. Jiangxi sat at the top, and beside him was a white-robed figure. During this period of time, the human race has been experiencing one joyous event after another. Heavenly Venerable Purple Firmament, no, Supreme Purple Firmament has escaped, and 2 sacred ground universes have been opened at the same time. Congratulations! Heavenly Venerable 9 Firmament presided over this banquet. He stood there and spoke loudly. The other upper echelons of the human race, be it Tao Lords or Heavenly Venerables, were all smiling. What a joyous event! From now on, the human race in the fourth universe would be the number one force in the Chaos Sea. They would have 2 sacred ground universes. There were also nearly 1,000 Tao Lords, 7 Heavenly Venerables, and 2 Supremes. With such a foundation, they would no longer have to fear the calamity and could enjoy eternity. Jiangxi, thank you. Supreme Purple Firmament raised his cup and thanked him. Grandmaster, you have contributed greatly to the human race. The Purple Firmament Sword Sutra that you left behind once guided my sword Tao cultivation. Now that I have the strength to help you escape, I naturally won't sit back and do nothing, Jiangxi said with a smile. With his current strength, He naturally couldn't compete with the origin of the fourth universe. However, the fourth universe was created by Great Dream God King. Wasn't it up to Great Dream God King to release him? After the banquet, Jiang Xi returned to Earth. He stopped on the moon and looked at the blue planet. Earth, Mountain, Sea Star, Transcendence Road. He knew that one day in the future, he would definitely open that road and transcend. He would do what no one before him had done. To Jiang Xi, with the experience panel, it was only a matter of time before he became a primordial chaos ruler. This was because the experience panel was brought down from the Transcendence Road by Emperor Junyuan. It contained ultimate power. Then Jiang Xi cut open the void with one hand and arrived in an independent space. It was the independent space that Divine General Qing Shi had opened, a world with birds and flowers. "You're here." Divine General Qing Shi smiled. "Senior Qing Shi." Jiang Xi bowed respectfully. Divine General Qing Shi had protected Jiang Dudu for countless years, which was enough for him to be so respectful. Jiang Dudu was the key to opening the Transcendence Road. Her aura was different from other experts. If Divine General Qing Shi hadn't made Jiang Dudu fall into a deep sleep, Divine General Thousand Transformations would have sensed her aura the moment he descended into the primordial realm's chaos sea. "Go on." Divine General Qing Shi smiled before disappearing. Jiang Xi sighed. He now knew that Divine General Qing Shi was actually the ancestor of the Qingyuan race. Back then, when the primordial realm's army embarked on the final road, they left behind the Qingyuan race and the Heavenly Feather race to guard the rear. The Heavenly Feather race rebelled, and the Qingyuan race resisted with all their might. In the end, they were killed by the ruler of the astral realm, and Divine General Qing Shi escaped with serious injuries. The special space that could monitor the entire Chaos Sea was left behind by the Qingyuan race. It was also the key to Divine General Qing Shi's escape from the ruler of the astral realm. Jiang Xi shook his head and walked to the flower bed. He saw the sleeping Jiang Dudu. In terms of appearance, Jiang Dudu was identical to Great Dream God King. However, it was obvious that Jiang Dudu's liveliness was different from Great Dream God King's dignified aura. Jiang Xi waved his hand gently, and the sleeping seal disappeared. The sleeping beauty Jiang Dudu's eyelashes trembled. Then she opened her eyes and saw a familiar figure. "Brother." End of book. P.S. I wanted to write more, but the moment Jiang Dudu opened her eyes, I felt that it was too late. I suddenly felt that this was the best time to end it, so I just finished the book. Calculating the time, it's 3 days, exactly 1 year. Writing a book for a year is something I never thought of before. Although the ending is a little rushed, I've already explained everything. There are some small holes that haven't been filled, such as the battle pattern continent, the extraterritorial battlefield, and the existence under the ancient god abyss. Please ignore it automatically. Also, Jiang Xi has comprehended the eternal time Tao. He can reverse time and revive experts below the Tao Lord level. I originally wanted to write some plot about reviving the first master, Taoist Gu, and the Wine Sword Immortal's Tao companion Hibiscus Sword Immortal. After thinking about it, I'll leave some memories for everyone. After all, incomplete is the most perfect. Finally, thank you for your company and support this year. Thank you very much. Bow. The mountain is high and the road is long. We'll meet again if fate wills it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.